All right, hello and welcome to another live stream, February 7th. Holy cow.
Hello.
One of these days I will stop being surprised that we are in fact 2 weeks after my last live stream. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. I am Miranda, and then I've got my host, my co-host, my painter, the painter, Flo.
You're like, here's my human.
Yes, I do tend to take ownership of people. Sorry. Not just Flo though. Disembodied voice here on the side. Also chiming in whenever he feels like.
Hello.
Feels apropos. Yeah. So, hobby chat tonight. Well, at least that's where we're starting. Who knows where we're going? We saw Beekeeper yesterday, and I certainly have thoughts. But, yeah, of course, we always like to start off our stream knowing what all you guys are working on tonight. Give me a little update. Huh?
Who's here? Hello.
Yeah, who's here? Hello. Who's working on what? And yeah, for sure. Looks like I'm gonna have to, oh my. Looks like we're gonna have to look at a different screen for the chat. Sweet. Let's see, Jerry DeBaca. I saw Hot Fuzz before Shaun of the Dead. Go figure. Hey, Skulger, welcome, man. Good to see you. Are you still playing WoW?
Your image is blown out.
Why is... Whoa. Oh, that... All right. Hold, please. I fixed that before the live stream, and it's still like...
Yeah, that image is a little bright.
How's that?
It was like, you're going live, huh? Well, let's mess everything up.
Dude, I get that all the time. So... My ability to rely on technology is...
Non-existent.
Well, it's just always a disappointment. There we go. Even that framing seems like it's changed. What even happened?
Well, that was different.
Alright, so let me make sure this guy's in focus. So here's my sweet, this is from the Cadia Stands box, the Scout Sentinel. So I've got some Armored Sentinels, so Flo painted this bad boy up for me.
I mean, he's not finished, obviously. He's missing an arm in the cage.
But he's certainly tabletop quality. So yes. What all are you working on tonight? Let me know. And for some reason my chat is also giving me nothing but frustration. So we had to restart the internet, all of it, before starting the live stream, so I feel like I'm also getting some errors that way. Because it's not updating. Why the hell aren't you updating? Let's see.
Still feel like there's a stealth update somewhere.
Well, it's not updating the chat, even though there's clearly chat happening. Let's see. Can I restart that?
Technical difficulties. Where's our technical difficulty screen? I feel like we need one of those, you know, that comes up and has the little elevator music and the weird, like, the weird little shapes and stuff. And
Only if it's just some horribly inappropriate image. Alright, well, I don't know what I can do about that for the moment.
all right, so Miranda brought up the Beekeeper, so I'm gonna mention it.
I'm gonna try and fix it.
Because while she's working on that, because I feel like the Beekeeper did anyone see that? Like, let me know in chat. Because man,
A lot of people have clearly seen it because
Yeah.
it has gone gangbusters. Swear.
well, it feels like when we were saying it before we went live, it feels more like a Neil Breen movie than the newest Neil Breen movie.
Exactly.
And so, I don't know, it was just very bizarre. Felt like the dialogue and even some of the plot just felt like an alien was trying to like mimic humanity.
I fixed it. It did.
Super weird.
It did indeed. So get rid of you. Have you. Haha! I win. On the fly technical troubleshooting. Why don't I have an IT degree, huh? Anyway, it was a super weird movie. It felt like you said, some weird aping of humanity, of like how people behave. Everybody just had one-liners. Nobody could finish a conversation. People gave accolades and credit to people who never deserved it. People wouldn't even describe scenarios the right way. At one point, like, this call center's blown up, and they keep describing it as just burned to the ground, and it's just looking at like an ashtray, even though the image is not even the same. Like, they just didn't even do anything to match the script to the visuals. It's a
Well, it
mess.
just looked like a building that, you know, had a floor in it that had like caught on fire, and that's about it. But
I had a hole in
but
it.
you could tell it's like that's what the script had said, so that's what people were gonna say.
Oh man, it was weird. It was, I think, every 2 minutes you and I were looking at each other going, what the heck are we watching?
And the biggest, most egregious part of it was for being like a no holds barred action movie. There were disappointingly few bee puns.
Oh yeah, no, I think that was the most egregious thing. There was like one at the end. So, like, it couldn't go all in enough to be like crazy silly, but it also like wouldn't restrain itself enough to be a movie you could take seriously. And Jason Statham, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Spy with Melissa McCarthy, which is honestly a delightful movie to watch.
Probably the best Paul Feig movie ever made.
I mean,
better
I
than
love it.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I mean, right.
But it's better than Bridesmaids. Everybody gives that credit, and it's like, no, Spy is way better. It's hilarious.
Did we see that?
We did.
Okay. Yeah. No, Spy was actually clever and didn't rely on just being vulgar for humor, which is
It's a thing that a lot of things do.
it's a thing that a lot of things do, and it's how girls try to be fun. It's a whole thing. It's disappointing. But anyway, Spy is really good.
I hate comedy.
And Jason Statham's character from Spy, who is this ridiculous human being, he plays the exact same character in Beekeeper.
So we feel it's just
The
canon.
prequel, yeah. It's like before he goes to work with Melissa McCarthy in Spy, he was a beekeeper. So, yes. Anyway, would you recommend Beekeeper?
Normally, no. Like as a like, oh, this is a good movie. But if you enjoy watching kind of movie train wrecks, like best of the worst sort of stuff, yes, I would.
I don't know if it even necessarily qualifies that. Although we did comment on it being, and I don't know if you already mentioned it, like if you've ever seen Neil Breen movies, this feels like a Neil Breen movie with a budget. I think with a pretty significant budget because the dialogue is
I did mention that.
near identical. Okay. Yeah. sorry. I was
man,
busy fixing things, okay?
I kept expecting like additional writing by Neil Breen or something like that. Like I feel like it had to be credited.
It was crazy. It was bananas. So yeah, I can't say I would recommend it other than like unless you have a real specific
No, unless you enjoy watching like The Room or
yeah, if you enjoy
Fateful
watching
Findings or Twisted Pair or
movies where yeah.
what is it, Manos, The Hands of Fate, that kind of stuff.
This is a Donald movie.
I could see that for sure. Anyway, now I can finally say hi to everybody in the chat. So hi Thomas Grable, welcome Cherry Tabaka, of course Scourger, happy to see you, man. I've been keeping up on painting my Votan finally, painting 3 to 5 model squads every 4 days and keep rotating. It's actually working on getting a lot done. Dude, yeah, like consistency is key for sure. And congratulations on
that's
getting 3 to
impressive.
5 models done in less than a week. Like that's legit time you're putting toward that. So that's awesome.
I
You're
can
gonna have
agree.
to send me some pictures. Send them to me through like Discord. I want to see what your Votan army looks like. Mr. Kyle, welcome. Plunderden, hey. You're gonna be at Adepticon. I'm gonna see you at Adepticon. I'm so excited. Adepticon. Was it last time we did the live stream? We'd already confirmed that we were taking the train.
Yes.
Or Amtrak-ing it.
Yes.
Okay.
We are.
Reva
So why does
Carver.
Broadsword Gaming sound familiar?
Broadsword Gaming?
Yeah, up here it says, I think you should collaborate with Ciara from Broadsword Gaming. It would be pure gold. It sounds familiar. I swear I've seen it, but I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, Miranda's going to look at it.
Broadsword Gaming.
Probably that one in the middle there.
Huh. Well, this is a
I
store.
think you just went to a website. I think it's a YouTube channel, is my guess.
Well, that was a Facebook page.
Do you see that image in the middle?
This one?
The
This one.
Middle. Is that a YouTube channel?
I don't know.
It's from Bing Videos. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Bing.
I know.
So it's pretending like Bing is like, what? We're video hosting. It's like, no, it's not. It's a YouTube video. It's just you put it on your webpage.
I see. Broadsword Gaming. Oh, yeah. Oh, she's cool. Have we seen?
I'm trying to decide if we've seen something from them.
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't know.
So yeah, I don't know. I'd read that in the
Admitted-
chat and I was like, that sounds familiar.
Well, as far as my like YouTube stuff that's at all gaming related, it's been like Auspex Tactics and Luton, right? Like that's kind of who we've been watching.
Well, yeah, a lot of.
But Chris, thank you very much for the suggestion.
I've also been watching one. I'm trying to remember his name. He's a cartoon character, but he does a lot of Sisters of Battle.
Oh, okay.
tactics. And I forget his name. It has that that software I just learned the name of the other day, but where you're just a little cartoon and you move around.
Like Doodle or something like that?
No, it's for live shows and stuff. It's Little Platoon uses it. Remember him? It's his little avatar, but it kind of moves. But it's a little cartoon character. But either way, it's he does Sisters of Battle stuff.
Oh, okay. JP got rockets. Live stream is better than a dead stream. Exactly. And so far, our stream seems to be good. Modem reset right before starting. And getting my comments to show up. Even though everything else got reset. Whatever. Yes. So, saying hi. Back
So
to people.
Jeremy said he just saw Beekeeper. He
Just
said he
watched
liked
Beekeeper this morning. I really liked it.
I don't know if I
Jeremy,
trust
what's your
his opinion,
stand?
though.
I don't trust. No.
Yeah. Somebody who doesn't think The Big Lebowski is one of the most brilliant movies ever. I don't know if I trust it. All right, so
So Jeremy, I love you, but you're contrarian.
all right, so Jeremy does know action movies, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so I'm curious what his thought is on it.
All right. Yes.
Because one of the
State your
things that I
case.
saw on this movie that it usually, for decades, right? American action movies are real big and all. But one of the big things that they always tend to steer away from is just the wanton murder of just average, like people who are
Like-
just working jobs.
Yes.
And so, like, you would see.
Unless
just
you're
pe-
watching like Bad Boys or the G.I. Joe movie was pretty ridiculous.
Well, but
way
it's
back.
those are kind of ridiculous movies, right? They're not supposed to be set in real life, whereas this is, right? Because there's Secret Service, that's a real organization. There's the FBI, real organization, right? The what was the third one? Wasn't
FBI,
SWAT, it
Secret
was like-
Service. SWAT, you Delta Force. You said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They
Delta
were like
Force,
old retired special forces people.
SEAL Team 6, like
Kept getting called like the B team.
yeah, which should have been a pun, but like,
Totally opportunities.
but he's just like murdering them.
Well,
just-
no, he goes
just
up and he
killing
says he
them.
doesn't want to hurt them, and then murders them all.
Well, even there's other ones that he doesn't say anything to. He just murders them, including one guy getting chopped in half by an elevator. And
They
you're
got
just
it
like,
his way.
well, but it's like, that guy's just going to work, right? Like you can think what you want about the FBI and it's political and whatever, but it's like not everyone is that. And this movie wasn't saying they were even. He was just saying, no, this is an average employee at the FBI. What? Cut his head off.
There was definitely a
It's like-
strong theme of government corruption. And it's like institutional corruption.
Sort of.
Yeah,
but don't
yeah, I
think
mean, it
that
was
the
not well.
Secret police
res-
was supposed to be corrupt. I don't think the FBI was supposed to be corrupt. I don't think that one of them was like National Guard or something, and those guys are just getting killed. Like, and our hero's the one killing them.
Yeah.
And you're like,
it's
I don't know that you can be a hero if you're just like this guy's like, kisses his wife and kids goodbye as he goes into work today, and they're like, hey, strap on your Kevlar. There's a situation. It's like, okay, I'm going to do my job, and then he gets chopped in half with an elevator, and the guy who did it's supposed to be the good guy. It's like, I don't know about that. And so it just seems so like that's part of why it was so bizarre and alien to me. It's just like, oh, there's not even going to be, like John Wick. John Wick kills hundreds of people, but all of them are supposed to be gangsters and part of these organizations.
part of the
Like,
assassin community.
He's not just murdering random police officers that are just like, hey, excuse me,
I don't know.
citizen,
They
and
want
he just
people with
blows his head off.
families. You saw John Wick 2, where everyone's cell phone lit up when there was a hit out for him.
Well,
Little
even
ladies
in a
with baby
world-
strollers.
Even in a John Wick world, where every man, woman, and child is part of an
Well,
assassination
that the
organization,
assassination organization is as
Even
common
then-
as being an Uber driver.
even then, he wasn't randomly killing random people.
Okay.
He was only ever killing like criminals.
Yes.
And so in this one, this guy's just killing people that are just jobbing it. You know, somebody who just like, you know, got a promotion at the FBI and they're looking for, nope, cut in half with an elevator. And you're just like, what the heck?
I mean, I was laughing out loud during a lot of that movie. In fact, when we were done, there's a couple guys behind us. And I was like, sorry guys if I was laughing really loud during the movie. And they're like, we were laughing really loud during the movie. So everyone was entertained. It was really easy to not take it seriously. But yeah, I mean, if you were to try and examine it as like a real movie.
So chat, let me know. Can you think of another modern American, or I even say modern, last 20 years, American action movie where just the wanton murder of just citizens doing their job is looked at as just fine and even heroic? I'll keep an eye on the chat.
The question is, does the movie convey people doing their job as heroic?
No. The murder of those people.
Oh, the murder of those people. Okay, well, I
Is it
already said
heroic?
G.I. Joe because that was a
Is
very
it-
clear example of that. But
I don't know that G.I. Joe is, I don't know, I'd have to see it again.
yeah.
If they're just like, hey, look, here's a police officer on the road, blow his head off, chop him in half. Like, I don't think
It was more
quite doing that.
incidental. It was just like crazy collateral damage. I think Batman versus Superman, like crazy collateral damage, just unacknowledged of who the victims are.
Maybe, but this is like very clear who the victims are. We
Yeah.
are specifically we go out of our way to have a whole scene where Jeremy Irons is like,
Oh,
all right,
gosh.
you're Delta, you're SEAL Team 6, you guys are all, you know, retired military, they're operators, you know, served your country. All right, this, but you're all, well, he insults them, right? It says that they're nothing compared to a beekeeper. And then they go out to stop him and you know, and just get killed. Just horribly. And
Yeah.
dismembered and all kinds of stuff. And it's just like, okay. And then there's just FBI that are showing up outside of this building. And they're like, okay, well, we got to go in. And they go in to fight him, and he's just murdering them. It
Well,
is crazy.
The movie had an additional layer of aggravation for me because the basis that sort of kicks off the murder-kill rampage is based on a lady who gets scammed by one of those, like, scamming, you know, pop-up
Yeah,
windows.
Claire Huxtable gets scammed.
Claire Huxtable gets scammed out of all of her money, and like this call center looks like legit like a Price is Right game show, with a dude on the mic like doing all this stuff. And I've watched a lot of like Scammer
a big-
Payback and
hang on.
Kitboga.
It's a big, like, it's two big rows of all these hackers, right? And they're all like, I don't know, in their 20s, just
Yeah, they just
all
look like
average-
college kids.
Average, like, American white kids that are, you know, just using internet slang and stuff like that.
Yes, all sounding like bros.
Yeah, like Call of Duty bros.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like I've actually seen a lot of scammer like call centers, and you know, either them getting
You
taken
kinda
down
work
or
in that industry a little bit.
well, yeah, and I've been around that industry a bit of
Not the scammer industry, but
but
financial industry.
yeah, like financial industry where people have been scammed.
Not to mislead people.
And you know, I love the vigilante justice of watching those YouTubers who go after those scammers, shut them down because it's
Who do you watch?
Pierogi and Kitboga and Jim Browning are the immediate ones that come to mind. But they're great. Like it's genuinely good. But one of the problems about that type of scam, the reason why it doesn't get taken down and why people get screwed so hard from it is because those call centers are all sourced outside of the country where the laws don't reach, and the countries that they are
Where
in,
are they basically sourced out of?
like 90%, well, maybe not 90%. There's a lot out of Nigeria and India. It's like both, like Africa, India, primarily. Because it's easy money, and the thing is you can hide the source of that money,
So
and
not
those
just
countries,
in a call center in the middle of
Massachusetts.
in the middle of Massachusetts.
Yeah, it was in Massachusetts. And the reason so it's like they're doing what is clearly illegal stuff with traceable stuff. And it's a whole like corruption thing, but it's like, I think it misleads people because the reason, again, that those scams are really hard to stop or protect people from or get your money back from is because it goes out of the country. And the second it goes out of the country, all bets are off as to whether or not that receiving country is going to give two shits about helping you out. And 90% of the time, they don't, unless you literally put them on blast and make it embarrassing for them not to. So it was driving me nuts in that first half of the movie. I'm like, that doesn't work like that. So it's a side note because I told him, I was like, I'm kind of uniquely informed on that particular motivation. It was driving me nuts.
It was hilarious because the last people that called in,
oh yeah,
family from India, and you're like, what?
So you know they were doing it like on purpose, and it's like, I don't know what you think you're actually doing, but it's certainly not helping inform anybody of how to protect themselves. And you know, it makes me cranky. So yes, sorry, that was a bit of a tirade, but man, it breaks my heart to watch people get scammed. Like, it makes me rage so much because it's so unjust and so awful, and like it was just used as a cheap device and like presented in this completely misleading fashion that was upsetting. And then there's all the rest of the movie that was just absurd. So I mean, not that that wasn't, but anyway, yes, hello, Jerry. Cherry, hello, working on the electronics in my Jeep. Oh, that sounds like in the cold weather. Well, I guess it's not that cold. Like, we've had a really
Anything more
mild.
frustrating than trying to figure out car electronics.
Well, that's what my dad had to deal with. Like,
Yeah.
we had to go pick him up the other day because he was stranded about an hour north of us because some connecting pin on his like 30-year-old car, as part of I think the fuse connection, failed, and so the car wouldn't start. And he was able to sort of bypass it, but you know, first we had to take him home, and he had to go into his car back, and this whole thing, and take a bunch of troubleshooting. And it's like, electronics are nice while they work, but oof. It's why I'm nervous about the idea of connecting your car to something like the internet. Can you imagine?
Oh,
We were
there's
just
no
talking
way.
about like a pop-up scam, right? Can you imagine? I mean, that was the whole thing of Fast and Furious. No, Fast
was
and
one of them.
Furious.
It was one of them.
Charlize Theron's a car hacker. she makes them do things.
It was all the smart cars. She was making them drive around and attack them and stuff like that.
And you're like, okay, well, it's not quite that, but it's, yeah,
Well, it's not there
that.
right now, but it's not far from it.
Why paint the wrong Menoth disciple? Wow, that's your name. Why paint the wrong army, and what did Menoth do to deserve that? Okay, first off, I play Khador, and plenty of Khadorans are Menoth followers. So you could have, back in the day, an old faith theme force. So I'm not gonna hear that. Secondly, the Imperium of Man just has not been introduced to the likes of Menoth. Maybe Menoth would help fight a Chaos God. I don't know.
I'd say he's about on the level of a Chaos God.
A
maybe.
Chaos God.
Although if you ask what he did, he was a negligent father.
Yeah, I mean, that's his
He
story.
just ran off, didn't pay attention to
Well, he didn't
humanity.
even notice humanity when he created them.
He gave
right?
him the wall, the
The
sheath, and the fire.
and the word.
I thought it was.
The wall, you're right. The wall, fire, the sheath.
I thought it was
There's
just the
also,
three
I thought,
things.
the word, like the book, the
Maybe
Law
it
of
was the
Menoth.
word.
Well, no, he came back, I guess, later. No, it's when he came back he gave him all that. Because humanity lived in the wilds, you know, kind of wretched for a long time before Menoth came back. And because he realized that so many humans were following the Devourer Worm. And he's like, wait a minute. My kids can't be doing that.
Man, I can go fight in the Devourer Worm for thousands of years just so you can come over here and worship him.
Yeah, exactly. And Tharn are like, because Tharn are feral, to say the least.
It's like how the the Greatest Generation felt about hippies. And like they fought all the socialists in World War II just to come back and have hippies.
It's like,
This is all mad. It's like, what are you guys doing?
well, they didn't do enough, did they? Let's see. Working on the Scorn army, putting magnets on my finished 10-men swordman unit. Yay! Are new Scorn or old Scorn? Like, are these the magnets that come with the new models, or are you magnetizing and actually drilling holes and doing the hard stuff there? Because we were talking about it the other day, because I'm working on this Vulture gunship, which you can see I've gotten really far on, and there's a couple of weapon options, and I'm like, well, can't I just magnetize it? But it's like, you have to modify the model to make it work with magnets. You can't just, you know, the War Machine, the new War Machine models, they're socketed to to hold magnets, so it's fine. But
Well, not only do they hold magnets, but they also hold like the arm in the right position. They don't just slide around on the magnet. Mm-hmm. So it's like a step above, right?
yes,
It's like if you magnetize a head and you put it on there and the head's like flips around
Like, oh.
sideways or something, and you're like, cool.
all wiggly. Yeah, well, we magnetized my Conquest way back in the day, and his arm sort of has a weird swing to it and whatnot. Plunderden making plans to build an entire medieval town. Oh my.
That sounds amazing.
That is really cool.
I wanna
Well,
see that.
Plunderden makes good terrain too, so I bet it's gonna look amazing. Scourger, I am still playing World of Warcraft, but not for too long. Sub is paused mid-March and gonna focus on other things, moving to Vancouver. Oh, right. Fair enough. Well, safe travels. Good luck in the move. You'll be doing it in the spring, so hopefully it won't be too awful up in Canada. And Disembodied Voice, you've been playing what, Season of Discovery? Is that what it's called?
I've been playing some of that. It's been kind of interesting. I haven't seen Crad on in a while, so which is the guild leader. He's like an old friend of ours.
I miss Crad. Not enough to play World of Warcraft, but I miss him. Every time, like, hi, do I want to play? And I'm like, I just see like my time like disappear down this like
Well, it's
hole.
like when would you have in the last month, right? Like,
Well, that's the other thing, right? Like, it's really, I mean, I'm sure you guys have had it before where you enjoyed a video game or some prevarication, something like a while back. But then, you've gotten busy and life's moved on or whatever. And when you come back to it, it's really hard not, like, and you go back to it and you're trying to enjoy it, and it's really hard for it not to feel like you just could be doing other things and probably should be. And that's where I am at anytime. Most anytime I put on a video game. Like, I'll make some time for Lethal Company or Dark Tide, but even that's rare. Poor Paul, I've like ditched him a couple of times. I'm so sorry, Paul. Who isn't in the chat? Oh my goodness. I think he's asleep. We'll let him sleep. But
Paul's here.
is he?
He's further down, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry. Oh, there you are, Paul. Audio popping. Okay. So yeah, poor Paul. Like, I've ditched him a couple of times. Like, just because stuff keeps coming up, including like picking up my dad the other day. So yeah,
Be back momentarily.
it would be nice to play these things, but yes, we only have so many resources to put where we like.
Because I didn't bring any oranges or yellows with me, so gonna use yours.
Okie dokie. Thomas Grable painting a Gobber spy from War Machine and Requiem. Ah, the Gobbers are great. I love the Gobbers from the Iron Kingdoms. Like, well, you had are they bodgers? Was that the thing they would bodge in Signar to repair stuff? Because you had Gobber mechanics there, but then like you had some mercs that were Gobbers, just like goblin type characters. By the way, Thomas, I saw your cool Ray critter on my Facebook feed, and Flo saw it too. Looks very cool. Something about the texture though makes my teeth feel weird. Just wanted to share that.
The texture of what?
So Thomas painted a like this cool ray, like stingray looking thing for D&D, and it looks really cool, but there's something about like the way it looks that just, I don't know, have you ever had something like give you a weird
Yeah, I don't know.
feel?
I know you've said that, or it makes your teeth like weird. I usually get that with
It's all those crevices. I don't know. Something about it.
Makes her think of bugs.
No, it doesn't make me think of anything. It just causes a visceral reaction.
like I have that with like fingernail buffers or stuff like that.
Yeah. Like that if you hear it or something. But, I mean,
Those
it
look
looks
really
great.
cool.
It's a lurker. Sorry, a lurker, Thomas. Anyway. Let's see. Jeremy, working on kicking thieves out of the store. Yeah, we see that a lot here too.
Only we don't get to kick them out.
Jared
What are you talking about? Thieves just walk out the front door of our stores.
Exactly.
You don't have to get kicked out. They steal the stuff and leave.
Walk right out. Jerry is working on a real Jeep, installing aftermarket heated seats, a voltimeter, a USB charger that works with the key on functionality. Nice. Well, you are a man of many talents, aren't you, Jerry? Evening all. Hello, welcome. As the cat was having a late night tear around the house. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for joining us. As always, Paul. Missed ya. JP got rockets. Kitty had zoomies. That's a good thing. I miss my kitty having zoomies. So
I'm
weird.
impressed that Sasha still gets the zoomies.
Yeah. Don't know.
Not too often, but every so often she'll be running around the house and I'm like, where are you getting your energy from? Are you stealing it from me? Because
Who
this
is
is like
that?
a 20-year-old cat.
Sasha.
Sasha?
Yeah.
How old is Sasha now?
She's about 20.
Wow.
Something like that.
Yeah, no.
And she gets the zoomies.
in
Like,
good
not
shape.
very often, but she does sometimes. I'm just like, what the heck?
I miss my little Amanda. Ho hum. You're now pet free, which I suppose has worked for our travel
But not
plans.
little Mason.
Not little Mason. Oh yeah, I guess I could have. We finally got our coffin made for Mason. It's very cute. Cute coffin. Let's see. Mr. Kyle, I've probably seen something like one good comedy movie my entire life. No, there are some good ones. It depends on your humor, right?
I mean, other than Tropic Thunder.
Like, I think Tropic Thunder is freaking amazing.
I've actually never seen Tropic Thunder.
I think The Other
So-
Guys is freaking amazing.
Other Guys is great.
I think Black Dynamite is freaking amazing.
Yes, that's
That's
correct.
pretty good.
I think Hot Fuzz is amazing.
Which is another one that I haven't
Yeah,
seen.
Hot Fuzz is top tier. You haven't seen Hot Fuzz?
No, that's something we've discussed a few times now.
There's a
We're
lot
just
you haven't
like,
seen, so I never
Yeah.
remember the exact catalog of it.
That's just getting me to watch comedy for the most part. It's just difficult to do because I'm just like not. Unless somebody's bringing it by and they're just like, we're gonna watch this thing, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're watching it. I usually don't look to watch any of it.
Well, you should look to watch Hot Fuzz because it's amazing.
Hot Fuzz probably is my favorite comedy, but I think Tropic Thunder might be right behind it because it's so inappropriate. But it's
Tropic Thunder
so
I am
well
interested
done.
in, and Hot Fuzz I'm interested in, but like,
it's so good. I don't know, like those four I named, they're all like
Some of your top.
they're
comedies.
my favorite comedies for sure. So like you get a sense of what I think is funny, I guess, from that. But yeah.
I thought The Other Guys was okay. Like, But I have a very strong dislike for Will Ferrell, so.
So yeah, it's like people with the Tom Cruise effect or whatever, where they're like, yeah, it's gonna be an amazing movie, but I'm gonna ignore it because I hate this guy. You're like, okay.
No, I've watched Other Guys a few times, and just,
A few times? Mm-hmm. Why would I do that?
I watched it with you one of the times.
So, I see models and minis. You saw that we were discussing resin kits and decided to sit in. I promise we'll talk about
We
it.
will talk about it. I promise. I've got my.
It's
I
the
really
meandering
have
nature of our show.
my. Yes. I need to catch up on the chat. Jeremy, what I would totally tell anyone who likes Jason Statham movies to watch it. Would you tell him to watch In the Name of the King also because it has Jason Statham? Because that's an Uwe Boll movie, and that's a tough one to sit through.
I don't know. It also has Matthew Lillard in it too, and Burt Reynolds.
We saw that in theaters.
Yeah, we did.
I remember just like in my seat, just oh my god, bless his heart. But you know, I do love Jason Statham and do find myself willing to watch him in many things. Paul, cat's fine. Yeah, dog's a little under the weather, so making sure the cat didn't bother her. Poor Heidi, she got attacked. It was a whole thing. Glad she's home now. Mr. Kyle, the first movie I've seen with my girlfriend, now wife, congratulations, and thereafter was Crank with Jason Statham. It's a miracle that worked out. I have not seen any of the Crank stuff, actually.
I know a few things about it. It's kind of a over-the-top movie.
I expect that, yeah. Bill's dealing with a headache tonight, so I'm just going to watch and listen tonight. Oh. I feel you, Bills. Just definitely get some rest. Scoldger, I will for sure. It's ultramarine blue with off-white cloth. Ooh. Gold gives me big SC2 marine mixed with Alliance colors.
Like a StarCraft 2 Marine? Like a Terran Marine?
Oh, okay, I bet so. Nice. Oh, I bet those look great.
And, Alliance colors. It's hard to go wrong there.
It's Statham movie. It's not set in the real world. Well, that's fair. I mean, I think still one of my favorite movies I've ever seen him in is Snatch.
Is that the best movie he's ever been in? I feel like it might be.
Oh, yeah.
I do like
I know
that
one of
movie.
the worst movies he's ever been in was that Wrath of Man movie.
It's really boring.
It was so boring. They took everything that's charming about Jason Statham and managed to just drain it out of him in that movie or edit around it or something. Like,
Wait a minute. Is he in... Oh, what was it? Ungentlemanly Warfare or something like that? What was the trailer?
no,
we just
that was
watched?
Henry Cavill and
Well, there are other people in it.
I didn't
Is he not in
see
there?
Statham in it. No.
Oh, because it's a Guy Ritchie movie. I thought he might be in it.
Well, yeah, well, I didn't see him in the trailer. Yeah, we did see that Henry Cavill trailer for Ungentlemanly Warfare, and I'm on board. Not just because of Henry Cavill.
But that may have a strong...
That's pretty strong influence. He has star power. I'll see a movie because of him. That's
Yeah.
fine. I trust his taste.
Well, they talk about star power being gone, and so I think traditional star power is gone. Where you're just like, oh, this big movie star that everyone loves and whatever, and they got a bunch of Oscars. It's like, no, I think star power now is like there's an actor with a personality that you like. Like you like who that actor is, and so you go see anything he's in. Like I do think Jason Statham's one of them. I think Henry Cavill's one of them at this point.
Yeah. Well, any actor that doesn't just seem to go out of his way to be wretched to listen to, I think
Or
can
Keanu Reeves
curry
is
that.
way.
Keanu Reeves is
And it's
exactly
like-
that.
It's
Yeah.
not even they just go out of the way. It's like they're particularly charming and nice, and you're just like, man, why can't they all be like this guy?
I
And so
know.
you just sort of like them.
Yeah. Okay. Chris Hemsworth, very affable, pretty. I follow his fitness routines on Instagram.
You get a lot of them out of them, do you?
Uh-huh.
Learn how to do some exercises.
Mr. Kyle, a guy chopped in half by an elevator. Yeah, it's over the top. It's hilarious violence, I guess.
It's not even all that focused on. It's just a thing that happens.
Yeah.
And it's just horrifying.
JP got rockets. Oh, corruption in government as a movie theme? Totally unbelievable. People get cut in half by elevators all the time. Seriously, it's an industry hazard. Yep. Any chance that movie was a ChatGPT script? Yes.
A real high chance, I feel
Really
like.
high. We talked about that as we were leaving the movie too, because especially given like some of the ignorant things that would be said in it, where like it didn't have, what was it? There was the son like getting the
Yay.
mom or whatever elected, and he's all, "You're behind in 15 of the 20 counties you needed for presidential election," and it's like,
Like,
What?
counties?
counties? Like, what is happening? Like,
So that's not how elections work.
I mean, for the one state, but, and so it's like, it feels very first draft at a minimum, and then again, some of the stuff that's described versus the visuals,
Well, just
and
the-
they didn't bother reconciling it at all.
I feel like the dialogue mostly was
The dialogue
just
is
weird.
awful. Dialogue is awful, from the very first moment of the movie. Jason Statham's all like, "You take care of me," and we're like, "Who takes care? What are you talking about? You pay rent." And it's just everything's weird about this movie.
What? Claire Huxtable takes care of him.
She feeds him sometimes. So anyway, it's absurd. JP got rockets. You forget that action movie heroes just know who the bad guys are, but not who the good guys are. I wish we could go after content thieves as well. I found 2 of my Twitch streams uploaded to YouTube by third world users. Ironically, they got far more views than I ever have.
You can. YouTube strongly leans in favor of people making content claims. You can absolutely go after them.
Yeah, even false ones, right? Like,
Yeah, it'll knock their content down. You don't even have to prove anything, and it'll pull their content, and then they have to reply before it'll put it back up. Like,
now, whether or not they just go putting it on some other channel, I don't know. That's a big thing with movies, right? Like, movies will get uploaded to those sorts of third world,
well,
out
a
of
lot
country.
of times when you see that though, it's completely above board. Like
yeah,
they are
that's true.
actually
That's
buying it
true.
and putting it on the channel. So, do keep that in mind. They're not always ripping it off there.
Paul says, one issue with scamming is a bunch of UK companies went UK only call centers, so overseas staff got fired. They work for scammer centers as they have all the system knowledge, so it can sound legit.
Oh, interesting. Like they're like, well, we can shut down the call center or we can just keep it open and do something else. We know how to sound official. We've been practicing.
Well, yeah, because the UK, so the companies went back to the UK and then the overseas ones got fired. So they have all the, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, and that's the case, but.
Like they have all the infrastructure already set up. They have all the employees. They have everything. Like, I don't know. I guess I could see that.
Not an excuse, but like then you're just making a bunch of victims for no reason, or not for no reason, for money. Models and Minis, a large clickbait gaming company, use one of my kits to advertise their own.
Wow.
That's bold. I've seen that before though. Like I'll follow people in the sewing community, and they'll see like Shin or some other, where you can buy like fast fashion stuff from China, and they'll use images of garments made by like famous YouTubers, their own image.
Oh, wow.
I'm just like, that's bold.
I mean, do they actually sell it?
I mean, they sell a knockoff version of it.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
it's
could
horrible
see it,
looking.
'cause-
Yeah, because one of the girls, she bought her dress, like
Yeah, and then tried it on just to see
yeah,
what the
just
difference
like
was.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw one of
Well, it's
those.
interesting. They make a video showing how to make it, so they're making it.
But yeah, exactly.
lot
Like
of them.
it's really hard to disprove that one, right? Models and Minis had a lot. Sorry. Mandragora, guess who joined the Resin Printer Club? Did you get to actually print your first stuff finally? Oh, I'm so excited. What'd you print? Jeremy, there are no scoring. Oh, right. Sorry. You're right. I forgot. Kyle, on magnetizing my Scorn army, it's all old Scorn, just putting the magnets on the bases to storage. Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's how DJ does it.
No Mark IV for me yet. Admittedly, the only reason I have 2 Mark IV armies is because Privateer was nice and sent them to me. But I will be taking one of them to Adepticon, I think.
Yeah. You might be playing Erica from...
From Tried and True. If you
Yeah.
haven't checked out their YouTube channel, they super deserve it. They run the Delaware War Machine Club. And Erica and her brother are super awesome people. And they are really rebuilding the community and hosting events. And they hosted the narrative event and War Machine stuff at Nova. And they're doing it for Adepticon. And, they're good people. It's really, really nice to see that community getting fostered again. Mandragora, I failed a bunch of prints and only just today realized I hadn't peeled a plastic cover off the build plate. Removed it, and I am on hour 4 of a 10-hour print. Hopefully it'll be done well. Oh.
Yeah, it always sucks when it's like, it's such a simple, you're like, oh,
When-
right, I didn't do that. Oops.
Well, it's frustrating, but it's also a relief, right? Because it's not a more complicated problem. And even though you can be like,
Yeah.
okay, fine, I was an idiot, or I was inattentive, or whatever, now it's working, and that's so much better. JP Garrock, that's a tough one to go after. Content strikes are easier, but you could probably have to put in a copyright notice on his channel with the timestamps of the infringed bits. Maybe you might get away with just reporting it generally and seeing what happens. If they're going after your content, or if they're copying your content, then go after them. Mandragora, WoW isn't the WoW of 10 years ago because the people and mood and tone of the player base changed drastically. Back in the day, we devoted 10 hours. Today, they quit on the first raid wipe. Well, when I originally played World of Warcraft, we were not in the Cool Kids Club, and we're not allowed to go raiding with people. That was for the elite. I got into one of the elite guilds.
You were in Nax back in the
I was in
day.
Nax for a short bit, but even then I was like, what is it? There's like varsity team, and then there's the other ones after that, the less popular cheerleaders.
You were
I was
just JV.
I was that one, JV. But and I was that was 1% of people getting to see the inside of Nax. So there was a little bit of raiding, barely. The whole culture around it sucked, and whenever Classic kind of came back around again and everyone knew how to do it, it was actually kind of fun. Like, even raiding was not bad.
Yeah.
A little exhausting. 40
Well,
weeks of...
Scoldger would know. He was our main tank.
Yes. Scourger definitely would know. He knows the frustration.
But it was I don't know. It wasn't even that frustrating. Like
It wasn't. Well, our guild kicked ass though. Like we were
our guild was
particularly
literally
good.
like everyone from our guild showed up, and it was about 35-ish people, and we were able to clear everything just fine. Like we were all just competent players and moved on. It was like. It's funny, I was talking to some people at Valhalla one year, and they were just talking about like, oh yeah, we have these raids, and like
you have to show up with your world buffs.
Yeah, well, they're required to show up
buttons.
world buff, but which we would mostly do, just because we would do it, and there were definitely people in our guild that like hustled so that we all could.
That's true.
But like,
definitely some people putting a little more work in than others.
Hey,
Faux show.
But then like.
Sexy.
But we were just all competent players, and so even the people that just show up, we would handle it. And it's funny how much they talked about it. We end up killing Cthulhu before they did, in their like super hardcore guild. And we're not.
Well, they were
hardcore
just
at
jerks to each other. They like kind of kept some of that old school elitism. Like raid players. Like not everyone who raids is a jerk, but hardcore raiders kind of are jerks. Like, and there's some exception to that, but man, like they can make a game so unfun by just making it literally feel like a job.
all. Let me push the power in.
I'm going to
Getting stuck.
Yeah, I was getting stuck on the
Oh, is that what it
The
is?
cord.
the cord, yeah. Let me see, is that totally out of the view of it?
I got it. I got it. I got it.
I just moved the whole table forward.
That was my problem. Sorry. Fixing it.
Alright, Vulture Gunship. Check that bad boy out. It's under construction, okay, so be nice, but... Oh, maybe that's still correct.
It's like the tail's just barely clearing the grenade.
Yeah, just barely. But it is doing it. Okay, so yes, I think we are close to going ahead and actually getting on topic again. Models and minis. I found that there were some when recasting my terrain sculpts that I did for Sea-Dog Game Studios. Karma got them before we did. Models and minis. Currently finishing up new armor kit to get thrown in. Let's see, a new armor kit to get thrown in the silicone later tonight.
Wow, look at that. It is interesting. Like, I guess you'd sold them just like normal retail, and someone had recast them, was already reselling them before you guys even got to some of the markets.
It's
Is
crazy.
that what was happening?
Mandragora, I had 3 fails before I removed the plastic, but the nice thing was even with it 512 models on the plate build, so I still had my first success. I'm printing Knolls. Nice. It's a lurker above. Thank you.
Let's see, currently you said a new armor kit to get thrown in silicone later. So he's like, I wonder what armor kit that is. Because he's casting them.
Mm-hmm. Well, to get thrown in silicone, so you're making the mold.
Yeah.
So what's the original?
So
is
it's
this
probably a
card?
3D print.
Oh, okay.
And then you build the mold, and then it's basically what we did, like what, 12 years ago, something like that, with that clockwork tower terrain piece we
Way
did.
back when we first met.
That was a 3D print that we got from Shapeways.
When we first started hanging out, anyways.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we had Shapeways print ours because we didn't have any kind of printer.
JP got rockets. Speaking of comedy, Blazing Saddles was released this day 50 years ago.
Wow.
Whee! The whole Cornetto trilogy is awesome.
So it's the sort of thing you always hear, like, oh, they can't make that now. And it's like, no. They won't make that now. There's a distinction. There's definitely a market and gosh, there's like an audience for that for sure.
I'm surprised you remember me from AMA Con all those years ago. Yeah, we bought some of your stuff. We still have it. I'll remember. And I think we're friends on Facebook, so I also see you post. Jeremy, let's see, I own In the Name of the King. It's probably an every other year rewatch.
I mean, it's one of those. It's like, what is it? Blood Rain is another one like that, and like, there's just, I don't know. There's something about like really bad B-movie fantasy movies that's kind of fun.
It's most fantasy movies.
Yes. If anyone wants to get weirded out by Jason Statham with hair, watch Ghosts of Mars.
Now, is that the John Carpenter movie? Because I don't think I've seen that.
I haven't.
Wow, I want to see it now.
I got weirded out watching him as an Olympic diver. Revok, I love Ghosts of Mars too. Clearly, Jason Statham hadn't bit the bullet yet on going for a shaved head because of a receding hairline. Tribulations of man. Splendor Dead, for my medieval town, I would like to build a bakery, tavern, church, farmhouses, watermill, barn, and the Lord's Manor. It's going to be an entire game table. I love
That
it.
is really cool.
I may be particularly interested in the bakery because I love little things that have food.
I know, it's like you've got to kind of watch where you're going from like Wargaming sweet diorama to Dollhouse, because I know I can get a little
Like, oh my
indulgent.
gosh, little chairs. And what? That's a little table with little food
And
on
here's
it.
the little food, and here's a little setting, and then you've made like this little nuclear town. It's great.
Little nuclear testing town.
It's so fun.
I don't know. I could probably get way into that, but I just don't have the time.
Well, and that's always the problem, right? But it's like in your imagination, you can still see it. It's what I love about the Bolt Action group, right? Like we saw Sean Bagley at LVO, and he set up his tables, and he was setting up real scenarios. He was like, no, this is really this airstrip in like this part of the world, and this is really kind of what this little town looks like. He had one that was blown up with like legit rubble that he'd kind of just put everywhere, and I don't know how he's going to clean it up, but it was really beautifully done. But it's just, he made boards that looked like real areas you would fight over. And so not everything was just a blown up ruin or forest or like the most fought over house in Western Imran like we had in our battle reports forever. Like
We're fighting over the latrine for Malifaux.
Yes, exactly. Which, I mean, I was really proud of that model, but all that to say, it's really cool when you see these kind of more realistic, even if it's anachronistic, but it evokes the idea of it being like a real place you're fighting over, and it makes it so cool. I mean, the guys who set up Bolt Action at Valhalla just do a fantastic job every time.
For sure.
And they just make these super awesome game boards that make the game like way more cinematic feeling to play. So anyway, Scoldger, will you be on streams at Adepticon? We were talking about that today because one of the stream schedules does fall on the first day we'd be at Adepticon, so I might do like a phone thing, as much as I
Phone thing
feel,
or a laptop thing or something.
or laptop thing, yeah, maybe a laptop thing. I think that would be a little less cringy. Like,
And see.
I have a really hard time with the idea of just walking around a con like, oh.
Well, it's what, just me holding a gimbal chasing you around.
That'd be
Looking
better,
stuff.
at least. I just
Probably that would be much better.
Yeah, we'll see. But I
Reading
should.
comments to you over the sound of the convention around you.
Exactly. Ooh, spit out. Tried and true. S2, they're awesome. Yes, they are. Mandragora, my first pinup model was an Artisan Guild's Bone Gnasher Knoll set. Pinup Paris, the Knoll Slayer. She's awesome. The best part is I have Knolls from Reaper Bones and Orc Quest, so Paris is going to have 3 different styles of Knolls to fight. It's going to be great. It does sound really sweet. JP Got Rockets. It's hard to stream at Adepticon. The signal is really dodgy in the area. That's also fair. Because there's how many people on the internet at that point,
And how many
right?
people on their cell phones and stuff like that.
Mandragora, don't feel bad. I never got into Nex at all. My best raids in Classic era were getting to Arms Tank, Karazhan, and Zilgarab. And I was so proud of that. Yeah, no, that's legit.
Although Karazhan didn't hit until Burning Crusade.
Yeah,
But
I
Zilgarab was
skipped
definitely
Karazhan,
classic.
which is a shame because by all rights, it's everything I would have loved in a dungeon. But I did get to DPS all of Wrath of the Lich King. Let's see. Catches the gunship. Oh yeah, trying not to destroy this Resin model. 10 years later, I still don't have Shadowmourne because I couldn't get 3 people to do the Blood Queen bites right in 1,000 tries.
Oh no.
Oh my god. All right, I'm gonna skip through some of this chat because I actually do want to talk about these Resin models. JP Got Rockets, to answer Tommy's question, they were on the market already, but an FLGS shop owner had bought some recast and was selling them in his shop.
Oh.
That's some BS right there.
Yeah, that is not okay.
Let's see. Models and minis. No, built by hand, just adding the last few rivets. then hit it with primer before making the molds. Oh, okay, so old school.
That's right, because I remember I think I even talked to you about making rivets. Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Oh, okay. Ghost of Mars is Carpenter. Jeremy, I own that movie also. Of course you do.
I would like to see that movie, actually.
Right,
I think that might be his last one he ever made.
Ghost
I'm
of
not
Mars?
sure. Yeah.
Oh. Jerry DeBacca. So when a comedy movie turns out to be lame, not funny, what is the word for it? Anti-comedy? Faux funny? Just mediocre, probably. Just forgettable, unfortunately.
So if it's comedy and it turns out to be lame, it's just bad. Because there's unintentional comedy, right? Like Tommy Wiseau. Mm-hmm. And then there's just straightforward comedy that just is funny. But like, yeah, if you're trying to be funny and you fall flat, it's just cringy and bad.
And then subsequently forgettable. Robert Oswald, hi, are you still playing Dust? No, I don't have anyone to play Dust with, but it is fun. I was teaching someone to play Dust before it all before the game went out, kind of forever.
Yeah,
out
we were
of
trying to
business.
train up some people so we could do battle reports for it or something, but then the company didn't make it, and so we're like, well, okay.
Ravak, why don't the WGG team do some first-time watch reaction videos that are so popular on YouTube these days? Sounds like there's quite a few to choose from. Funny you should mention that.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Eventually, yes. Now we're very aware of how the reaction world.
We thought about maybe even us doing some to the GW videos on the
On Warhammer Plus.
Warhammer Plus.
Yeah, but it's like you have to be real careful of how you do it. But
Yeah.
it might Nintendo us.
Because the first one we watched was not, none of us were impressed with, so I don't know if GW just get mad at us.
Yeah, the what was it, Pariah Nexus or something like that which is I think based on a book series, by the way. Mandragora, fighting over real places is why I love Zombicide and those types of games over war games on principle. I don't have the files to print walls yet, but streets and buildings add a lot of immersion. Yes, but I don't think that takes away. Yes, but I don't think it takes away from like a war game in general. I think it just depends on how you set up your board.
I don't know that it takes away from me. He just likes to like that it adds to it.
Are you all going to hit the content creator meetup on Wednesday? I didn't sign up for anything specifically. We're going to be arriving close to like 3 o'clock on Wednesday, I think. And that's just getting into Chicago. And then we're going to have to get a car and get to the location.
So
It's a whole thing.
I don't really know.
So
I don't know when that is.
We'll see. Robert, I was at the dentist today. Broke a tooth, need a crown. There goes all my Adepticon money. Oh no, that's been going around. I know 2 other people, literally like at work, who had the same thing happen to them. It's like the warranty ran out and just like. Mandragora, I'd have to paint the bases as sandstone, then yeah, that could work. And then it's 3D printer talk. Sinkle still have the Mech Warrior game. That I don't know. Okay, so Resin versus.
Remember we played that one year, Hinkle Family Fun Center.
Yeah, at Hinkle.
It's in Breaking Bad. It's like the laser tag place from Breaking Bad. That's where they filmed it. Was at Hinkle. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if they still have Mech Warrior there or not, because they were the ones you could actually climb into.
Oh, remember? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, Jerry's here in New Mexico, so
yeah, that's right.
Been there, I'm sure.
I have no idea. We haven't been to Hinkle in more than 10 years, so.
No.
I don't think I've ever been there.
It hasn't been 10 years, but we went with Brooker and Thane and a few other people. Like, it had been many years ago, but not that long.
Okay.
Like, Thane lives right down the street from it.
I know. Let's see, content creator meetups run 4 p.m. through 6 or 7, if I recall correctly. Yeah, that might be tight. We'll see. I mean, if I can, it'd be super fun.
Yeah.
I think you just show up. I don't know if there's a specific ticket or sign-up thing. I thought there was something on the Adepticon website, like putting it on the schedule, but...
I don't know. Well, we're at the bottom of comments, so what is our topic for the day?
Vulture, Gunship, and other Forgeworld models. So, as some of you may know, I've had a Stormlord sitting in a box for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
For too long.
It's been a while. I open it up, I look at it. There's nine full-size sprues in there for that thing. And I went and compared it to my Rogel Dorn, which was the last, like, probably complicated piece that I actually put together and enjoyed, and it was good. 3 sprues. Now, full sprues for sure, but 3 sprues. So the Baneblade, the Stormlord, is 3 times as many sprues. It's a very intimidating model. Now, it's all plastic, even though it's Forgeworld, right? I mean, it should be a Forgeworld model, but it's all plastic, so hence why it has sprues and is injection molded. Now, I picked up this Vulture Gunship at LVO, and it is interesting because, one, it's an older model.
Yeah.
And so you have these hand-poured resin pieces that are attached to the injection molded Valkyrie pieces to modify the Valkyrie into a Vulture Gunship. The first thing I noticed in opening the box is that the instructions are minimal, to say the least. So I got 2 pages of instructions. One lists some of the parts, but not actually all the parts. It just lists some of them. And I don't know why I didn't bother listing all of them. Then you have like images of kind of what the model should look like, and then these sort of cutouts from the instruction kit for the Valkyrie. Problem is, it doesn't come with any instructions for the Valkyrie. So I just happen to already have a Valkyrie kit.
Is that where you got those instructions
Yes.
from? They were only from the other kit?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I had to open my Valkyrie kit, grab the instructions so that I could assemble my other stuff to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. The other thing is the Vulture Gunship. So the data slate for it, you know, it comes with like multiple rocket pods and like a Hellfire missile thingy. Or you can change it out for this Gatling gun.
Well, it's a pair of them, right?
A pair of Gatling guns and you would replace the multiple rocket pods with the Gatling gun pair. And that's like 18 shots, sort of like what you would think of the gunship having. The kit doesn't come with that at all. It just comes with the base models that come with a Valkyrie. The Vulture Gunship is just sort of like the fuselage and some of the altered pieces for like the tail wing and everything, but no weapons.
Well, the only weapon that comes with it is the little nose-mounted heavy bolter.
You're right. There is a nose-mounted heavy
that's it.
bolter. Yeah, which.
Oh, well, wait a minute.
is
Did
sweet.
it come with a couple of missiles too?
No.
Are those missiles part of the
That's the Valkyrie kit.
Valkyrie? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, buy the Vulture Gunship, which is a pack of resin pieces with the sprues that come with the rest of making a Valkyrie.
By the way, Mr. Kyle asked, is this Star Wars models? This
No.
is Astra Militarum.
Warhammer 40,000.
Yeah.
Imperial Guard. Astra Militarum. Forgeworld model, so it's part of the Air Wing, which I know.
Is it
Whatever. I'm not a competitive player, so I don't care that everyone's going to give me shit for playing with airplanes because they all suck right now. But what?
Is it technically part of the Air Wing, or is it?
Well, there's no detachments that are themed anymore.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah.
I was going to say like Thunderbolts and the little like their fighters and stuff like that were in
Yeah.
what's the one I was printing for you? The
Marauder.
The Marauder stuff
Bomber.
like that's all part of the Air Wing. But
All of that is now other data slates or data sheets or data slates, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's what everything classifies under. Because list building got extremely simplified in 10th edition, which I don't hate. Like, I honestly think that made it quite nice. But yeah, so that's what it comes with. And so the sort of signature weapons that would come with this model also don't actually come in the kit. You used to be able to buy Forgeworld weapons for that model, for the Vulture Gunship. You used to be able to get the Gatling gun as a separate piece, which they discontinued.
That's right.
So, I mean, whatever, right? Like,
So it's
I'm
like if you're gonna get one, it's because I have to 3D model it and then.
if I want the Gatling
print
guns
it,
on it,
yeah.
yeah, like you have to make it yourself or print it or whatever, because you don't get that. Now, whether or not that means in the future some sweet plastic kit's gonna come out, or if they're just sort of quietly doing away with those models, which you do see. I mean, there's a lot of that happening because, I mean, gosh, I used to complain about War Machine SKU bloat, but GW has a crazy crazy number of models at this point, like a ton of stuff out there. And I mean, it's been an issue, right, where there's a lot of not out of print, but out of stock stuff that doesn't get
so much that's out of stock. Yeah.
And then new models coming out. So
I guess, it's part of what we were talking about before the stream that kind of leans toward, I know a lot of people give Forgeworld a hard time, right? Because resin is not as easy to work with, I guess, as like plastic kits that are engineered to fit together beautifully and all that stuff. And it's like we were talking about that, because in order to make if they run out of plastic models, well, then they have to go back to however they're manufacturing, be it a third party company or they do it in house or whatever, but they have to actually mount up the molding tool into the injection molding machine, and then they have to do all this stuff. Whereas Forgeworld, I mean, they can almost just cast to order. They can get an order and then literally pour resin like right after that. You know what I mean? And then just stick it in the mail. Stick it in the mail like 2 hours later, right? Like, it's a sort of thing where you can make a lot more custom things and still be able to make them, instead of like, we don't have enough interest to sell, 20,000 of these, so we're not going to make it at all. And so it kind of is what gives it, it's resin, and it, like I said, it is harder to work with, but it's like, it's the only reason it's able to be made, I think.
Well, yeah. So right, and there's also like the idea of undercuts and how you model it and certain details that are different as well. But just being able to get certain one-off. I mean, we had that experience making the Clockwork Tower 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And those were all hand poured. And like from a production level, it doesn't scale well, but it also is the difference between maybe being able to do something at all or not, because unless you meet like some crazy overwhelming threshold to justify what it would take to make plastic, which is at a minimum an aluminum block that gets CNC'd into your part, which has to also undergo a certain quality control to make sure that the model in there fits the right parameters, again, not having any undercuts and being done to such a precise degree, so that you can then have the mold you need to then injection mold plastic. And some of those costs are coming down, but I mean, 10 years ago, that certainly wasn't the case, and I don't know whether that we're quite there yet, and that's where we have 3D printing kind of coming in and taking some of that role on. Models and Mini says, I will admit, working with Forgeworld resin is part of the reason I started making my own kits. Now, the resin itself, I don't hate. Like, so far, so good. You see I kind of have one piece of the actual plastic kit from the Valkyrie on here, and I did have to carve into this resin to make that part fit, which is just push fit right now. It's not glued in or anything, because there's flashing and there's just, there's sort of an impreciseness. Is that fair to say with resin?
Well, so I like they pick up detail incredibly well. I've read an article of people who are restoring old records and literally just casting silicone onto the records and pouring resin and being able to play records, and they were still high quality, right? There's types of resin from Smooth On and stuff like that that they can do that with, so it'll capture an incredible amount of detail. And you can see that on a lot of resin models, where especially little hoses where you see the ribbing on the hose and stuff like that. Like it
I mean, the detail on here is
nicer than you see in like injection molding,
and you can get shapes.
But
that would have
one of the things that I think Forgeworld does that I wonder about is different. So different silicones actually have a different shore hardness, right? And so some of the molds are real soft and like supple. You know what I mean? Like they feel. You can just you touch them and they almost squish down right to your finger in there. You can demold things out of them real easy, and you can do stuff like that. But I think that's a lot more, like as it's being cast, it's a lot more susceptible to warping, which is one of the big things I hear is a big problem with Forgeworld. I hear a lot of people talk about the warping.
Oh.
Whereas I know whenever one of the types of silicone we were using was actually a relatively rigid silicone.
We were using what, Smoothcast 300?
Well, that was our resin, but we were using some of the Mold Star stuff, and I forget
Mold
which
Star
one was the particularly
30.
rigid one, but like,
Oh.
some of the stuff
That.
you could. I mean, it was fairly solid, and so even when you bind the mold, we were basically using 2-part molds and putting them together, and we would have supporting structures on the sides, and we would, rubber band them or whatever. And so I know if a softer mold, if you put even a little too much pressure, it squishes. And so now
It's
dimensionally
warped,
it's warped, right? Which is what a lot of people complain about with Forgeworld. Whereas we were using other resins that were a lot more, or other silicones that were a lot more rigid, and you could put a little bit of compressive strength on it, and it wouldn't actually affect the shape of the mold at all.
part,
And so the models that came out of there stayed relatively, whatever the word is, like precise, right? And so I wonder if Forgeworld uses softer silicones, because I think those last longer. They're able to demold easier and stuff like that. But I do wonder, especially in larger pieces, if that's that warping people talk about. Because it seems like there's some degree of dimensional warping that they get that's not just run it under hot water and bend it. It's like, no, the actual just shape of the thing is squished in a way. So that was something I thought about when I was kind of messing with this piece.
Well, did you feel like this resin here was particularly soft?
Well, the resin, I don't know. I've always, anytime I see when I've seen Wargaming resin models, they almost always seem to be more rigid, right? Like a more rigid resin and not as soft. The only examples I've had of that were, I think at one point when Privateer Press was kind of working with some sorts of resins, they were coming in the, I'm trying to remember what boxes they were.
When the colossals were getting made. Those were
was
resin.
it the Coloss? I thought it was like, there were some
resin
sort of
bits.
kits that had like, I think they were the starter kits. And it was a weird stringy resin. Whenever you'd scrape a blade across it, it would get stringy rather than just...
It kind of makes me think of some of the D&D models I've been painting recently, and they're very rubbery feeling.
Well,
Those
those
are like
might be
bones.
the Reaper bones.
The Reaper
and those are
bones
also
are known
a
for
resin.
that.
And those are a lot softer.
Yeah,
And those are resin,
are-
not injection.
Those are weird to paint. Just because, as you're painting them, you're like, if I, accidentally cause this to move, am I going to, mess
Crack
up
the
the paint?
paint.
Or, yeah.
Oh, the minis we had for Undercity.
Yeah, Undercity especially. In
Those
fact,
models were
those
weird.
I remember hitting one of them with a primer.
But that were
And it
injectable
took
to
2
plastic.
weeks for the primer to cure against the surface of it. And I was
And the
like,
ones
what?
the picture I just sent you is of the Forgeworld models that I just finished.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I can't really share with the class though.
No, I should sending it to you.
Alright. Let's see. Jerry, my Knight Dominus is coming along. All weapons magnetized. Are there Forgeworld parts to modify it? That I would suggest checking with the internet for, because I have no idea.
Forgeworld parts to... Are you talking about like the gun that
Change
you're
the Knight
looking for?
to modify the Knight Dominus.
Oh, I don't know. Not familiar with their individual lines. It was just sort of a...
Let's see. Jeremy says, nope, the Forgeworld ones were resin. The plastic versions came out with Apocalypse in 2008-ish when more variants were added over the years. So there will be many leftover parts. Oh, for my Stormlord. Well, that is somewhat of a relief because that model, every time I open that box, I'm like, it's just a lot.
Yeah, I remember there was a smaller... Well, oh my gosh, even Armorcast actually made a Baneblade at one point. And it's a lot smaller than the current Baneblade now, but it's the... I remember that was one that they had made. It was heavy, too.
Yes. First time stream overtook the chat. I'm trying, Mandragora. I'm trying to be on topic sometimes. Andrew, I really wish they'd just go ahead and turn Forgeworld stuff to plastic and drop the resin altogether. So I suspect there is a certain threshold that isn't being met. They're not selling 1,000 Vulture gunships. they're selling a couple hundred.
Or more like 10,000, whatever their
whatever
cost would be. Well, think about how many sprues it would take to create that, right? At least, oh man, if they did it really well, maybe one whole sheet of sprues, right? But you think about what it costs for them to machine that out of, the standard size. Like if you look at the box that the Valkyrie comes in, right? Like that size sprue.
Yeah.
I mean, just to machine the tool that's going to mold that
whole thing
is not a small cost, and it's something where they do. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if it was 5,000 to 10,000 units at least before they pull the trigger on making a plastic kit for it, because it's not just milling the thing; it's you actually hiring the 3D artists and the. Because I think we had discussed this at one point. I'm trying to remember who we were talking with, but it was like you have an artist that's building the model, right? That's modeling it, but then you also have somebody that's kind of an injection molding engineer that's figuring out how to slice up the model.
Yeah, to optimize it.
And going through and making sure that there's no, because it's not even just you can't have undercuts. You kind of have to have, I forgot what percentages. There's a slight grade outward, that you still have to have. So it's not even like you can put a square into a mold. It's a slight trapezoid. And so, they have to go through and re-engineer the model, and they have to rebuild all of that stuff. And so
there's quite a bit of engineering.
Like the amount of money that they pay employees and materials and all that stuff just to get that started. There's a minimum model threshold I'm sure they have, and I kind of feel like Forgeworld fills that in.
Yes, I think that's exactly what their job is, and because the last couple of times we've been to events where the GW store was there, we've asked about an Arvis lighter. And they're like, well, the plastic kit is coming out. And
that was at Nova. And then you asked again at LVO, and they're like, the plastic kit's coming out.
Ryan's like, why do you keep asking about this? I'm like, just give me my toy. But yeah, so a plastic kit's coming out, but it was a Forgeworld model being redone because it is popular enough now to start meeting that threshold. But I don't see the Vulture gunship getting there. And Baneblades did obviously get there because now there's plastic for that.
Well, yeah, and especially with all the variants and stuff, it's a major cornerstone of an Astra Militarum army. And so they do feel like, okay, we're going to sell. I mean, think about how much it costs to manufacture that kit. They're large sprues, and what'd you say, 9 unique sprues? That's a lot of engineering that they paid to do.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I'm sure it's paid off for them because Baneblades, how do you solve this problem? Baneblade, that's a common joke, right?
I mean, if we were to just pause everything at Adepticon when we go up there, and I just went table to table counting how many Baneblades or how many Astra Militarum super heavy chassis that are built out of this kit are going to be on the tables. Yeah, there's a ton of them, right? But if I went through and just counted how many Vulture gunships there are at Adepticon, there'll be some. But
you'll see a Marauder every so often. We saw a Marauder at the El Paso game store. It's the only time I think I saw one. But that brings up the other concern that you get with resin is the weight.
It is much heavier, yeah.
And that makes me nervous if you have an airplane that's up in the air and a Miranda that runs around with drops tape measures on things. You do not want that just
Well, I remember
falling.
every time we'd bump the table, that whole thing would just start
wobbling.
and we're like,
everyone holds their breath, okay. So there's that. And then Andrew also points out resin dust is also dangerous to health. But as Chubby Emu says, unless it should be in your lungs, don't put anything in your lungs that shouldn't be in your lungs. It's just a bad plan. So even if you're shaving down your regular plastic, any of that stuff, just take precautions.
Not great for your lungs either.
Priming,
priming, using airbrushes. Just don't be dumb. It's you absorb an enormous amount of what you breathe in, and it's really hard to get that out. So just don't do it. But it's also more of a hobbyist thing, right? Working with resin does take a higher level of hobbyist skill, I would argue. Because now you're I'm already having to solve problems here. We've had to carve into the side of this resin piece to make sure this plastic part fit in there, because it approximately fit in there, but you can see where, again, there was flashing or other pieces that had to get
that's where some of the
modified.
dimensional warping, I think,
Okay, yeah.
occurred.
Yeah, so you're getting some of that. And so you've just got to know, well, am I not fitting this? You know, you have to decide if you are fitting it in correctly or if you are just needing to problem solve and get it to fit. Because with plastic, it's push fit, it's very precise, it's so much easier. Like putting together my Rogel Dorn, even though there's a pretty thick instruction booklet for doing it, is not hard. It's just follows step by step. It's like putting together those Lego kits. Like,
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, it's a lot like that.
Well, it's not like you're taking some of the Lego blocks and being like, oh, this one's warped. Here, let me shave this Lego block down.
Right.
It's like, no, they all fit.
Where this is like, well, here's sort of the end goal. Have fun, you know? Like,
Yeah, and that's something that I noticed with some models I've been painting recently is I'd get them and I'd start working on them, and you notice that, you know, there are gaps in them. These are Forgeworld models. They're not sitting together properly, and whoever's putting them together isn't quite shaving things down enough or anything like that, and so you actually get those gaps, and it makes them,
yeah, and
they
then
don't
there's
sit together as well, and so it's more precarious in using them. Those pieces may fall off.
now I've put together resin pieces that were from Toughest Girls in the Galaxy.
Oh, wow, I'm just blanking on them.
Yeah.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about.
Jeremy will know. He'll chime in a second.
The War Pulpit fit together very precisely.
Yeah.
It was, and it's a resin piece, you know, clearly hand poured. A little bit more attention probably going into it.
Well, and I think smaller pieces like that have
Yes.
they're less likely to warp or bend or stuff like that.
Yes.
Whereas that big, you know, brick of resin you have sitting on the little
Yeah,
turntable,
the larger the
is a
piece,
lot
the more chance
lot
of that,
more
for sure.
likely.
Mandragora says, I'd say same because I want to buy a Porphyrion for $300, not $600. But I found 2 separate places with STLs for $5, so I don't have to care anymore. Yeah, I mean, and there's definitely that, right? Like, I think as consumers, as Wargaming consumers, like, we don't really feel that bad paying a decent amount of money for our hobby stuff, right? Like, you know, especially if you're trying to be legit.
Well,
There's a certain threshold in which you just feel like you're being extorted from.
Well, okay, we could explore that actually. I think that's an interesting topic because I remember at the height of War Machine, when we played War Machine, even at your local game store, players would just be like, no, buy the original stuff, support Privateer.
Raging Heroes, by the way.
Raging
Thank you,
Heroes,
JP
thanks.
Got Rockets.
And so the player base alone liked the company and wanted to support the company, right? Like they're like, of course I'll buy the official version because that money goes to Privateer Press. Of course I will, right? Like it was very much, there was no question, you know. Of course we'll do, you know, we'll support them. Whereas I think Games Workshop over quite a while has created such a adversarial relationship with their customer base
Consumers, yeah.
that a lot of customers that like GW products are like, screw them. I'll print stuff. I'll buy recasts. I'll do all this other stuff because I'm so annoyed at the way they treat us. And so I think that's a major part of, because it's not like these are commodities, right? Like this
No,
isn't what
this
you're
is-
using to feed your children with or
No,
whatever.
these
It's
are
like,
toys. This is a luxury
these are
item.
toys,
Like,
these are-
And I feel like
enjoy
GW is kind of doing it to themselves at this point too, because a lot of people who are looking to buy things on their websites, they're out of everything, and so you can't get them. And so you're like, well, what's the point of?
No, it's the software problem, right? There's a lot of games and even just, especially even just user software like, you know, 3D tools or stuff like that I've run across where it's like, oh my God, this stuff runs better if you just pirate it. Like I would pay for this, but it's a lesser product than if I just pirate it and don't have to put up with the headache. And like that's what Flo's talking about right now, where it's like, yeah, nothing's in stock. Like
you don't
I would
have
pay
the
you
option to
money,
get it
but
legitimately.
I don't have an option, so I'm left printing it or I'm left doing whatever.
Kind of what we're running into right now is,
And so
you know, we're looking for a number of different models and we can't find them, so we're just going to start printing them.
yeah.
And so whenever you look at that, it's like, I think a lot of that, especially for, you know, a luxury hobby like Wargaming is, that it's a lot of it is company culture, right? Where if you're a good company and people like you, I feel like, wow, just lost the name of Malifaux, the people who make Malifaux.
Oh, Weird, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Weird's community very much has that. Where
Like,
they're
supports
we love
them.
Weird.
Infinity probably, too.
Infinity, absolutely.
Yeah, like, those are
Infinity people, they love
really positive.
Corvus Belly. Like, they're like, no, of course I'll buy your products.
Corvus
Like,
Belly's awesome. They're just sweet people.
oh, no, they're great. Like, it's one of my favorite companies. Like, I really like those guys. And it's like their player base, the idea of 3D printing their models or buying their models like recast or something, they're like, why would I do that? I'll just buy them from the company.
Well, funny you mentioned that, because when we were at LVO, there was also an Infinity tournament happening at a local game store, War Room Games, in Las Vegas.
What was it, War Room?
I think it was War Room Games.
Okay.
Pretty sure. Anyway, it was like a 32-person tournament that they had hosted there, and one of the members of the Infinity community modeled a custom miniature for the tournament that they had as a prize for participating.
Who had modeled it?
Just one of the community members
Okay.
there. Yeah, I didn't know him personally,
Yeah.
but he created a like robot chick who's also like a can girl, like a showgirl, like cabaret kind of looking
Yeah, showgirl.
thing. So like he modeled that, and I believe it was a 3D print that he was giving out, and like the company wasn't not supporting that. Like they also provided prize support and supported the event, but they don't go after people for doing stuff like that
No.
because it's helping push like the general positive culture of like, oh, isn't this fun? This is for participating in this specific Las Vegas tournament in 2024, and I've got that model. And it was a limited run. It's not exactly being sold either.
Well, yeah, right. Like
right?
they're not competing with the company in sales or something.
Right. Or they do something like discontinue the parts that you need to get to finish out your model. Which Mini says, or I make them that, Models in Mini says, or I make them that fit right on the wings. So I may just reach out to you for that, because that would save us some time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for
Not a
sure.
bad idea.
So thank you for that. I'll get with you after the stream. Andrew, resin dust is also dangerous to health. Yes, but again, if it's not supposed to be in your lungs, it shouldn't be in your lungs. Listen to Chubby Emu. He knows what he's talking about.
Well, I remember
To be fair, I'm
I had
really
a
bad at
science
that.
teacher in high school that actually had the thing where he's like, if you can see it, you probably shouldn't breathe it.
Well, one of my art teachers in the college when I was here, she actually had been breathing stuff in for so long with art and the likes that she became extremely sensitive to it.
Oh, like various art products?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So like primer and sealant and everything like that. Like she'd just been around it for so long
By the
that
way, I
even
will
the
warn
slightest
everyone,
smell of it.
Be very careful with Tester's dull coat.
Tester's Delco for
That's
sure.
like the most toxic stuff known to man, but it does the best possible job.
Just outside, mask, respirator, whatever. Like, just, yes.
But yeah, don't just use that in your garage, or something like that with the door closed. Like, that stuff's supposedly, like, super crazy.
There are rumors resin dust is actually work dust. Paul, I bought the Tyrannid Red Terror from Forgeworld years ago. None of the limb sockets or neck sockets fit. Spent hours sculpting and making anything fit. Ended up wrecking the Mini. Threw it out. Oh, no!
My gosh.
You threw it out. Well, hello, one sly wizard. Welcome. Mandragora, 10 years ago. Time flies. Also, how the heck did you manage it, Miranda? I've got respirator and fans to avoid the itchies. You were arms deep in resin, if I recall correctly, for the Clockwork Tower.
Are you
Your
kidding?
poor skin.
She looked like she was in one of those
Well, she looked like she's in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Like, there's it's
the
funny.
full suit and
Yeah. Well,
man.
so the big thing is that the
It was the
Man
Man
200.
200. It was specifically the aerosol.
Yeah.
It was the mold release, and if any of it got near me at all, my skin blistered up, and it stayed that way for like 2 weeks. It was frightening.
Yeah, so we went to the Man 205 liquid, and I would just brush it into the mold.
Yeah, it didn't seem to affect you at
And
all,
Miranda
but I was
would,
like, fully covered in cloth,
You had
gloves,
the head thing, the head sock, and
the
like,
head sock, the
Respirator.
respirator, the glasses, like.
there's a good picture of you.
There
in it. We need to
is.
find that.
It's funny because we didn't close the blinds or anything for our kitchen because we were, of course, doing it in our kitchen like smart people. And I'm surprised the neighbors never called us for like concocting
We look
some
like we were a
chemicals
meth
in our
lab or something,
house.
like, with
we
the-
already had it all planned out for it when the police came to our door.
Well, we had those 2.5 gallon pressure chambers.
That's right, because we had to pressurize. Oh God, we had to pressurize the molds to get off the air bubbles
So
because we didn't have access to a vacuum. Like that was not
we
really.
just didn't have one.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. So we had 3 pressure chambers sitting next to the window in front of the sink, or on the sink, on the counter in front of the window, and so you see these big like industrial like containers, and then there's like chemicals getting poured, and Miranda's dressed up like Walter White, like and we're in Albuquerque. So,
we cast 5,000 pieces was the estimate by the end. Oh gosh. Yeah, and it's like we learned so much. And I definitely got overly burned out where I'm like, I never want to see a resin piece so long as I live.
I've been itching to do it again.
Yeah.
So Wargamer Girl might be doing resin kits on Kickstarter or something before too long.
Yeah.
Everybody keep an eye out for it.
Except now you have people like me who can help with that stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we have more help now.
I was
Well,
saying,
and
we were a little
technology.
too new to knowing each other for you guys to recruit me at the time.
Yeah. Well, plus I learned some techniques that when I go back to redo it, it's going to be so much easier.
Exactly.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh, so much
it'd be
easier.
waste. It'd be a shame to waste that knowledge, especially since we probably make some pretty awesome pieces now, frankly.
Yeah.
Just
Or we're
brushing
gonna.
off the shoulders.
Jeremy.
Help us pay for our studio. Follow our Kickstarter.
Raging Hero says some of the worst resin I've ever worked with. So brittle and hates glue. Zappa Gap, Gorilla, and BSI didn't cure on it. We didn't have that problem with the War Pulpit.
No, what is it? Just regular cyanoacrylate.
Yeah,
like the super glue.
Yeah, I might have
I
used
feel
the
like you ran
Loctite
across
gel
stuff
or
that
something.
had not cured correctly or wasn't mixed correctly.
So that is one of the things you have to worry about, and that was a problem with some of the War Machine kits with the Colossals early on.
Yeah.
Whereas there were problems because they would rotocast the resin, and because resin's very sensitive to temperature when you are casting it, and if it gets too cold, I think it won't actually finish curing.
kick.
And we were talking to Austin, like way back when,
Yeah.
and he was doing a painting commission and mentioned like
Brush
the
for
paint.
Hire, or what's it called now?
Death Ray Designs.
Death Ray Designs now, yeah.
And he was talking about painting a miniature, and the paint kept like peeling off.
Yeah.
And it was because the resin itself hadn't cured right. And so that's
it
a
was
part that
leaching
would have needed.
through.
And it was
resin from the
leaching.
inside was leaching out onto the surface over time,
and that really is just, it needs to be replaced. You can't even fix that. Like
No.
you can't just make it cure. Like that chemical component has just failed, and you can't recatalyze it. So it just needed to be replaced. But the War Pulpit I got came together just fine. I mean, for what it's worth, right? Like one person's experience, and it didn't seem too terribly
We
brittle.
also got
We have some of the-
jailbirds.
we have the
because
jailbirds.
I needed to buy another box.
Yeah, because they were gonna make my Catachan, little Catachan ladies.
Yeah, your jungle betties.
Yes, it's gonna be great. Eventually. My Catachan love has sort of faded a bit because I'm like, basically I just make a Strachan blob when I use them right now.
Yeah.
And so the points haven't necessarily been there, especially when I could just put in another tank. That's neither here nor there. So you do get more variable results from resin. And that was one of the other things. Like we were QCing a lot of our resin parts before they were going out,
Oh, yeah,
because 1,000 of those 5,000 pieces I say that we poured were rejects, because it didn't cure right. It had air bubbles. It had,
1,000 of them? I don't know if it's
about
that.
that, and maybe less than, but not a whole lot less than. Like it was how many pieces was it?
That's a higher
32
failure rate
parts?
than what I would think.
I want to say it was 32 individual parts to put together that tower,
Yeah,
and we had
something like that.
however many that sold. So yeah, it was a whole thing. But
Well, we even had a detergent bath that we would put them through just to make them easier for the people who got them.
yeah, so you didn't have to re-clean them, because with these Forgeworld models, when these came in, you scrubbed them for me.
Step 1, toothbrush under the
Wash
sink,
your
some Dawn
models.
detergent.
Yep, exactly. Mandragora, the War Pulpit and all the Sisters of the Orphanage. I got those. They have not made them for STLs in the Hero Infinite line yet. They just released their first Jailbirds STLs this month.
Did they? Ooh, I might get those then. That sounds
project for
Yeah.
DJ.
Send them over to DJ, let him make them.
JP got rockets. It's a love-hate relationship with GW. We love to hate them. That is a very true thing because I think people, even when they bitch about GW, right, they're so invested. It's not like they're going anywhere. It's just like...
Well, if they weren't complaining, or if they didn't care, then they wouldn't complain. They would just leave.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And, you know, there's some of that. Like, they lost some market share during 7th edition.
Yeah.
I think
well,
7th
at the height
edition
of War
was-
Machine.
The Height of War Machine was the worst of GW, like worst of 40K, I should say. And then they sort of went back and rehabilitated their
I
relationship.
would say the worst of GW. I think you're right the first time. Because it wasn't 40K that wasn't making a community, you know, that was closing down all of their, like, social media and all that stuff. It was
That's
the whole
true.
game.
It was the whole
or
company.
I mean.
Yeah, and so when they kind of got with the times and got a little bit more social media savvy and engaged more with the community, and I mean, you read White Dwarf and it feels like a totally different community than when you read Reddit, you know? I mean, like there's a lot of people who love GW and love like what that hobby has done for them. And, you know, I think it's fair to say that most people probably get what they want out of their hobby when they're investing their time in it. And if you don't really want to feel negatively toward GW, then it's easy not to. You can just still find the models you want. Oh, those are out of print, well, I'll just get these ones. Or these are out of stock, I'll just get these ones. Like, there's plenty of people who do that, and it's fine.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference.
Well, right, and that's what Disembodied Voice was
Or you
saying.
just reach out to Models and Minis.
Yes.
And he will apparently fill in those
Fill in the
out-of-print,
gaps.
Pieces.
Which is where you get like some of that third-party support. See, Mandragora, the prices are egregious, though. Why do models cost as much as a freaking PlayStation 5? I mean, that goes back to it being, you know, not a commodity, man, and it's going to be based on... I mean, you know that GW has bean counters finding the exact optimized min-max of, like, how much they can get out of somebody versus, like, you know, before it's too much trouble, or, like, what is worth their time plus how much they can get out of you. And they're looking for the perfect ratio.
Well, and there's also on top of it, I mean, again, it's not just... So anyone who's made miniatures, and seems
Sounds like there's
few
quite a few
people
in here
the,
that
in the
have.
chat here. But it's not like, oh, I want this miniature to be made, and now I have it, and now I'm doing things. It's like, well, there's somebody sculpts it, you know, and somebody figures out molds for it. Somebody has done some sort of conceptual art for it. Somebody has done marketing art for it, right? I mean, it's not like GW makes models that they don't have actual artwork for.
Yeah.
And even, you know, they integrate it into the lore. There's a story, there's lore around it. There's stories around it. There's like all kinds of stuff that's involved with it, all of which, you know, they have employees that do. And so to a degree, you are paying for a lot of that overhead, but like, and so GW definitely charges more than they probably should. But but at the same time, and that's part of what I was saying before, where if it costs so much, then the player base starts feeling taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And so then there's a point where, well, we can charge up to this point before everyone just starts going and buying recasts or just being upset and leaving the
STLs
game
and
or
proxy.
whatever, right? And so like, I'm sure they do have some bean counters that are trying to figure out that level, but for a company that's as big as Games Workshop, at the same time, they are calculating a lot of overhead in there.
Yeah. Mac Attack with the super chat. Thank you, by the way. Random fact: the charcuterie board is basically an adult Lunchable where you swap the Capri Sun for wine. I learned that from my wife.
I feel like we've all learned a valuable lesson today.
Andrew, Mac isn't wrong.
I actually had some friends stay with us for a week or so before they moved into their own place, and like every other night they were bringing home cheeses and dried meats and stuff like that and making charcuterie boards. Like, okay then, all right, gonna try out all these different things because I can't be bothered to do it on my own.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it feels fancy. It's funny, we do things as adults that is just an upgraded version of what we did as kids.
Yeah.
I don't know, I like
I'll
to
take the
cook, I
Capri
just
Sun.
don't do those.
I mean, yeah, right. Like I'll take the Capri Sun just fine.
Biofex Games says, we're also on 10th. Quit remaking the rules. Quit remaking the rules if you have amazing rules.
Well, I remember many years, and I don't think Games Workshop, I don't think that's their issue. They've had better rules for a lot of stuff than they do now. Mm-hmm. I remember reading, was it when is one of my early realizations of this. It's when I think Wizards of the Coast owned D&D. And they were, I thought it was when they were starting to roll out 4th or coming up with 4th edition.
Okay.
But at one point they had mentioned, I was reading an article with them and they had mentioned like, yeah, we need to reset the knowledge base. I remember that being the phrase they use. And I was kind of reading what they meant by it. And I was like, oh my God. It's because they have all these fans and these fans have already bought all these books.
And so they were refleecing the market is what they were doing.
Like, well, we need to make all of that obsolete, so they have to buy all our new books. I mean, it's what Privateer did with the stupid Primaris Marines. Like, they're just replacing...
You mean GW?
Who did I say?
Privateer.
Oh, my God.
They did not make Primaris Marines.
Didn't.
That's not their
Privateer
fault.
Press never made any Primaris Marines. I think I was Primaris was...
I mean, the Crucible Guard... No, but anyway, go on.
but yeah, when GW made Primaris Marines, they're like, well, we have to make it where you have to buy the new ones.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's why they keep doing all the new versions of the rules, is because they want to revitalize, oh my gosh, the new edition's here. And now all the, and to a degree, all of the YouTube content creators are now making tons of videos about oh my gosh, how's your army in this new version? And it churns the player base and it keeps them excited. And in a way, it's like, that's kind of nefarious, where they're like, we're really just, this is how we're just making you have more and more money by just constantly agitating the player base with all these changes of everything. And there's a lot of people that's most of what they do with the game, especially the competitive crowd, is they just chase rule sets, right? That's kind of what they
rule
find joy in.
sets, swap armies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I lean on the side of whoever just made that comment.
Biofex.
And where it's like, can you just stop doing this already? Can we just have our rules and then we just know the rules? It's one of the reasons
BattleTech, right?
Well,
It's for a little
they've
longer.
changed rules before, but Privateer had done it for a while. When they had Mark II,
Mark
for
II was a
long
brilliant
time,
rule
they were
set.
like, we're not doing this again.
Mm-hmm.
These are just our rules. And I was like, I love that. That's one of the reasons
One
I
of
want
the
to
best rule books I've ever read in my life. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I was spoiled. Because
Yes.
then I read other rule sets and I'm like, but what about this thing? And they're like,
No, the Mark II War Machine and Horde's rules were just,
chef's kiss.
Yeah, they were
It's all the
amazing.
special rules that got very messy.
yeah.
And honestly, the core rules for 10th edition right now are perfectly fine. Like, they're playable. Like, you gotta memorize some of the terrain
Yeah.
stuff. Like, it's fine. It's just, now so you got all the indexes for free with the Warhammer app, right? Like, you can have access to that. But now the codexes are coming out, and that's where you're gonna have to pay again to be able to see what those data slates even look like and what their
But your
rules
points
are.
value will already be obsolete by the time you order the codex, before it even comes out.
Yeah, when you pull the plastic off of your codex, half of those rules are already, like, irrelevant. Yes.
That drives
Well,
me
and they
nuts.
rely on the app for that, and that is sloppy because it's frustrating. It's very frustrating to see that because I don't like having to refer to 3 different books to know whether or not I'm playing something right. I mean, that's a weird way to invest your time to me. And I get that it's a hobby, and one could argue that it's all kind of a waste of time. And it's like playing this game. But I don't need it to feel like a waste of time because once that happens, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, there's a certain requisite amount of spending time to learn rules so that you can play your game. And, like, whenever they just keep throwing that, like, block of time, that time investment again over and over, it's like, I get less interested.
JP Got Rockets proxy models are a time-honored, long-standing tradition. True fact.
Yeah, that's true.
I've definitely
the mark
proxied
of
models.
Dave.
Chekarubov, I am king of proxies. Even took some and played at GW Game Day.
Yes, good
Go
for
you, man. Nice work, Chekarubov.
Yeah.
JP, rules should be free. I don't mind the price quite so much on models if I don't have to spend money on ever-changing rules. Like, maybe one, I don't know. If you are going to put out a rule set that's going to need a bunch of FAQs, then yeah, I don't think it's fair to charge for that.
I shouldn't pay. What is it? The video game industry. I shouldn't pay to play your beta. You know?
There you go. There's a brilliant Ryan George skit he does about like DLC and like pre-release games and stuff, where he's like, his example is a puzzle.
Like a cardboard puzzle.
Yeah, like just a cardboard puzzle, and it's like, this doesn't have all the pieces. Oh, well, you could pay more to get those pieces. And you're like, but I bought a puzzle that's supposed to look like this. Yeah, well, and it's exactly
and in 6
right.
months, we'll release this much of it.
Yeah. So I would say that honestly depends on the company culture. If they're coming out with a book and they're like, this is the Bible, this is done, we're not changing everything, we're honoring these rule sets, we've perfected it, and that's that. Fine, I'll pay for that book.
I'm still the biggest fan ever of just, I bought this miniature, and look, there's a card that comes with it. All of the rules are on this card, and it's not going to change. And it's like, that's what I want in a game.
That was a nice thing.
That was
just
part
like,
of what's appealing for Malifaux for me.
Yeah. Well, and just like DLC for video games, it made developers lazy, because now the testing period that games and games need to go through is being shortened, because now there's just a hurry to get it out into the market, because you don't make any money until it's out on the market.
Yeah.
But instead of putting the time necessary to put a good product out, they're just putting a beta out.
Well, they would put, instead of like, if this game is buggy at all when it comes out, then it'll be a disaster and no one will buy our game. Whereas everyone's just used to it now. And
well, yeah, and
now
then
they can just kick it out without doing the requisite R&D.
Yeah, and so that's a bit of a cultural thing of like, they're doing the wrong thing, and because consumers haven't really responded harshly to it, or harshly enough.
Well, enough people are
it's
going ahead
enabled.
and buying it anyway.
Exactly.
So they're
It's
perpetuating it.
enabled. Yeah. Andrew, Infinity is weird, in which the game does not have a lot of stuff to be WYSIWYG, and the player base does not. The game does not have a lot of stuff to be WYSIWYG, and the player base does not enforce WYSIWYG in the least. Well, the gaming culture I've ever seen with Infinity, other than usually there being copious amounts of alcohol involved in tournaments, they are one of the friendliest, nicest communities I've ever interacted with.
Well,
like
with theirs,
when we had
I
Rumble on
think-
Route 66, those people were a joy to be around.
Yeah, they really were. I think a lot of with that though is that just the nature of the game itself is you're not looking at the model as much as you're looking at their entire character sheet for the model. Because it's almost like every model has a D&D character sheet for it. So it
is intimidating. It's why I still can't bring myself to play Infinity, even though I think Corvus Belli is a delightful, wonderful group of people, and I love the player base. It's just the game. I can't quite make myself do it. But I do really enjoy Aristea, exactly, which is being made into a video game.
Really? They're selling a copy of Aristea at Slice and Dice also.
Oh, really?
So
Oh, nice.
it's there.
So yeah, that one I could get on board with, and is super fun. So I'm trying. Joe Camel, I think the word you're searching for earlier on bad comedies is groaner. Groaner? Yeah.
I always associate that more with like any given joke is a groaner, but maybe as a whole movie it's a groaner. I'm not as familiar with it being used that way, but I can see that.
Maybe. Paul responds to BioFX, rules always need updating over time. I feel GW have fallen into the trap of routine new edition rather than it needs a new edition.
100%, yeah.
BioFX, I know, but now they're going back to third with the speed cards. Bio, there's an app to get new rule. Let me see. And their app to get the new rules doesn't work unless you pay for it. Yeah, sounds about right. I mean, who's surprised? I'm just surprised it was like $5 a month. Paul, when GW released a new 40K, they just need to leave it alone for longer and let people play the game, not tweak things 1 week in.
Right, it's like if they're tweaking it a
they're
weekend, then you
tweaking
must have
way
known
too
it was
much.
wrong when you printed it, you know?
Well, yeah, because there's a certain amount of time that happens from. But I feel like there's just probably miscommunications between departments, or failure to communicate between departments, and schedules that people are more concerned with keeping than being sensible. So, I mean, it's a problem. Mandragore, I think GW bounced back because Privateer Press fumbled with their own end times, so GW won back by default. do not think wokeness plus squats and the kill team stuff fixed their shames. Probably not.
Yeah, I kind of agree with some of that stuff for sure.
Yeah, it was a confluence of events
Most of it,
because
yeah.
what was it? Mark III was hitting when 9th edition
Yeah.
coming out. I can't remember. I think it was 9th
I don't know.
edition.
Like, again, there's the issues with Privateer. Like, what was it? I do feel like, what's his name? Bradigan?
Bradigus?
Bradigus? Was that his name? The
Yeah,
Circle of Boros guy?
the Circle of Boros one who swept the tournaments.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah, it was
like a lot of
Bradigus.
people argue, no, he wasn't that powerful. And it's like, I don't know, like the argument's irrelevant. It's just everyone felt like he was. Like it had crossed the line enough. I think there was an article or a forum or something that had come out where a guy was like, I've never played Circle in my life, and I won the local
Like an Australian tournament, I think.
Yeah, he's like, I did just playing this guy because you just could. It was just such a hard counter. And it was like, yeah, the game was starting to break with all the little hard counters and stuff. And so they introduced a Mark III, but it didn't change enough stuff that, like, it didn't address a lot of people's problems. So it made just a good place for a lot of people to walk away. Mm-hmm. And right at that time, Games Workshop was like, okay, fine, we'll start a Facebook. Hey, look, we'll actually have an outreach program to people in the community. Like, it was both of those at the same time that it was like, yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty strong counter back. Ruben says, I swapped from 40k to War Hordes in 7th edition, but then Privateer Press killed War Hordes for me, and I switched back. And I know a lot of people who played War Machine, they just don't still play War Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. JP got rockets. It was the Tom Kirby time that GW lost market share. They dropped a lot of the products and gave room for more of the independent studios to fill those niches. Is that when they were going, was that what their theme was, like, we're a modeling company?
Yes.
Is that what that time was? Yeah. Ruben, I would love to play Warma Hordes again, but I'm not sure I like what happened to my poor Kador. Dude, the best lore to me in Warma Hordes was all of the Doug Seacat stuff. Like, he made that world so real and interesting and dynamic, and Henchhold Scrolls felt so nihilistic to me, and I don't know, a lot of the new lore I've read, even when reading like the Flashpoint series,
and
it was
also pointless.
Well, nihilistic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really hard to be excited because they didn't give me a lot to be excited about.
It's like, oh, is that your favorite Warcaster? I don't know. They ran into the portal or something, maybe. I don't know. You're like, okay,
or
so
they died in
is that
the
it?
field, like, you're not going to see, like, off screen. They died off screen. Or maybe they'll come back. I'll leave it as a mystery. Or, like, the kind of cruel thing that, what's her name? The Convergence of Cirrus chick did to her dad. Nemo.
Yeah.
Like, there were just some gross things that were kind of happening that.
Which is fine if there's a really good story arc in there that they're
There's
doing,
something
and you're
else
like,
going.
but it wasn't. at all.
No, and I was pretty used to Kador just being like mustache twirling villains and all of the lore, like, kind of eye-rollingly so.
To a degree. I mean, the Old Witch and Vlad, and like he wasn't mustache twirling, and
He wasn't. He stood apart. The Old Witch in what wicked ways? She's just sort of
she's
pulling the
fascinating.
strings and doing her thing. That's fine.
And even Ein Vanar, you kind
No.
of understood like some of the stuff that she was doing.
They didn't. I don't know. I don't think they.
You don't think so?
I don't think they rendered her very well. No. Erisk, like, he's awful in Flashpoint. Like,
Karchev, he is awesome.
Karcha's awesome.
Well, but then they turned him into Deathjack or whatever. They like,
Yeah. So he.
yeah.
I mean, and
okay,
that
never
feels
mind.
like such a for the yucks kind of maneuver. And I know some people really enjoy it, but
Oh, that's right, Carjack. I
Yeah,
swear they did it just so they
Carjack.
could say Carjack.
well, exactly. And so it's like, did you just do this for a joke? Like, that doesn't feel like you're respectful of your customer base's time. So I don't know. Well, I have lots of issues with lore, and then they've skipped forward in time, and they're like, meh, and it ends up being sort of, what was it, a spell plague or something, I think is what D&D did.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, it's all
Or
gone
the
now.
Cataclysm, which is what
Cataclysm for World of Warcraft did. Old World and Times, bye.
Yeah.
Although Sigmar bounced back really well.
Over
a long
a fair
time.
amount of time, it bounced back.
A long time, it's true.
And boy, look, they're just bringing in old World back
Yes.
again.
Britonia's
because that
back.
never went away. All those fans were like, man, we still like this though.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, and that's true. And I think GW has because they have so much time in the market, everyone who is in wargaming knows who they are, and they have a weird relationship with their player base that is, some of that love to hate them, because a ton of people are going to come back with Old World, a ton of them, and it's going to be fine. So it's like, it's not the business model that a new game company would want to try. As Gav Thorpe would say, only GW can do what GW does.
yeah.
Don't try to copy GW. But yes. Oh, night, Thomas Grable. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you. I'm sure you're already gone by now, but thank you. Yes. Chuckaroo Bob. I gave up playing GW about 15 years ago. And I kind of was always out of it from a cost perspective for a long time. It's only like the last several years that I've amassed my army, and now they're all painted. Now I can't wait to play. But it's nice because now that I do have an army, it's so easy to find a community to like go play with, and now it's just a matter of me making the time. It's not saying, "Hey, Flo, want to learn how to play this game?" and getting like finding people and then having to foster that, which I'm unfortunately not very good at. Mac Attack. In my humble opinion, GW's best set of rules, hands down, they ever produced has to be the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. You played that, right?
Long time ago.
Long time ago. Did the rules?
But I don't remember it very well, but I've heard that exact sentiment from lots of people. Like, you're not alone in that. There's a lot of people that agree with you.
Andrew, it feels like GW has it locked into their mind that players buy one army and only ever one. Reality is that people will possibly buy a second army after finishing their first.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know that they are locked onto that idea. And the only, I guess my evidence for that is in reading White Dwarf, they specifically are pushing combat patrol and kill teams with the idea of you buying different factions and different armies.
But wouldn't that reinforce that? Where they don't think you're doing it already? Like they feel like they have to convince you. Whereas it's like, yeah, people, it's the thing that I say, like, wargamers are consumers by nature. And I think GW, I kind of agree. It's GW for a long time. They're like, yeah, we need to get, we don't worry about our older players. We need to get new people in the door to buy something.
Yeah.
And they're more worried about that than like keeping their old players happy. And it's just like, man, yeah, new players can get into the game and they might think it's fun or whatever, but I've seen older players drop so much money on that company.
Well, that and the older players are who are going to get the newer players into the game.
Which
like
is,
in
that's
general,
more
that's
true,
just
yes.
what's going to happen.
Yeah, they are sort of the fixture that new players kind of need. I mean, without a meta, without a community, you don't have a war game, and that's the trouble with trying to launch new war games, is how are you going to get communities together? And we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Models and minis. The constant rules changes is why I played Xenos Rampant instead. Being able to customize your own units for how you want to play them is perfect. Yeah, fair enough. Chuckaroo Bob, I bought Xenos but haven't tried them yet. Biofex. I've got 10 outdated codex that are now paperweights. Well, hopefully you got some pretty artwork with it. Mandragora, it's not about being a waste of time, it's about it being unwieldy. Okay. At some point with Hordes, I have to take every expansion book and rip out the circle pages to be able to play properly. Well, they were really pushing on War Room, right? I mean, that was the other thing with Mark II, I think had it, and it got updated with Mark III, and now you have the new app with Mark IV. Did Mark II have the app?
You still can't print the cards, can you?
I have to check that because I have the desktop app on here. I need to test that. Let's see, we just finished. Hey, Patty! How you doing? We just finished playing Monster Apocalypse. How's everyone's night going? Good. We're just chatting about, well, game companies and culture and all of that
Just
stuff.
hanging out, going late and chatting.
Yeah. JP got rockets. You'd be surprised, Andrew Fairbanks, as they figure 18 months is the average engagement for players, especially if they have been selling to a younger crowd, 2 Christmases and a birthday.
Okay, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Where they're wanting to get new people in, buy your stuff, and get out. Because they assume you're not going to stick around.
So they're actually counting on an 18-month turnaround.
It sounds
Jeez.
like it. Interesting.
That does seem really crazy. So yeah, I mean,
I'm probably counting on the same culture as like the video game culture. I mean, you play it for a certain number of hours and then
I
you
don't
drop it
know
and
what.
move on.
There's like a ridiculous percentage now of people who don't finish any of their video games.
Mm-hmm.
We still live? Yeah, Jeremy, I haven't gone away yet. Biofx. Okay, y'all have a good one. Oh, thank you, Biofx Gaming. Appreciate your input on the channel, on the chat tonight. Jeremy, man, I was sure it would be over after that break to follow someone. Bradicus Thorl, I think. Thank you, Patty. Get Flo some espresso. You dragging a bit?
No, I'm not dragging. I don't have much to say because I honestly don't really play. I played some Malifaux back in 2nd, but I mean...
You played some 3rd edition, I thought. You have the 3rd edition.
Well, I played like a game in 3rd edition. I tried to get a couple of them in and...
You also played Song of Ice and Fire.
I've only played it once.
I know. I really enjoy that
Like,
game.
we
It's
have all the
hard
stuff for it, but like,
I
I
know.
never get any games in.
I've spent more time setting that game up than playing it. Because I've set it up and then had to take it down because, like, we didn't end up getting to a game.
Oh.
Jeremy, Mark III, at the time it happens, was the worst idea ever.
Also,
the
I'm not
time it
working on
happened?
anything, so you're not seeing me like busily working on anything because I ran out of things to work on.
Yeah,
So.
you can just gaze upon a lovely Vulture gunship, which is lovely. I mean, I'm going to be so excited to put that on the table, even if it gets blown out of the air turn 1, because it's freaking cool. And there is a certain rule of cool that I can't help but want to go with. It's so pretty. I mean, look at that thing. Like, just the reason, I mean, I saw that Vulture gunship years ago, and I was like, what is that model? Because this turbine here in the middle, there's just something so cool and aggressive about
Yeah,
it.
there's something weird about that is. It's
Right?
very aggressive and just neat looking.
The Vulture gunship is a flat-out sexy model. I love it. I love it. And so I am happy that it is made, resin or not, that I can have that model, frankly. Privateer Press lost me, so then I wrote my own games. Fair enough, Patty. But you at least have experience to pull from, right? I mean, we are kind of in a golden time of so many games being made that it's good and bad, right? Because there's so many options, but I think that there's a lot to be gained and learned from all of these different rule sets and things that people are trying. Mac Attack, speaking of bad timing, WOTC
Wizards of the Coast.
going over to an online subscription model for D&D is going to worse than 4th edition. Subscriptions and the fact that we are in a recession. Not sure who's going to win.
I could not imagine paying for another subscription, especially to something that should be a hardback book that I bought.
Right? Gosh,
what
as
the
a
hell?
RPG player?
That's
You really want to be
I just
dicking
moved to
with your
Easy D6.
phone? Yeah, that's true. Easy D6, Scotty's system. Quite brilliant, quite fun.
But it seems
Real
like,
simple.
And a hardback book.
Hardback book, real simple, and you can do a lot of things with it. It's not like tied down to anything, so.
I still feel like World of Warcraft is to blame for all of that. I think once other companies, I think software companies started first, where they started going, wait, you can keep charging people for a game you've put out?
Just over and over.
Like just every month?
Even World of Warcraft relearned that because they're like, well, we're going to make you pay to still play Classic, and now we're going to make content for Classic again because I don't even know what they've done to retail, but it is awful.
Well, but I mean, they started with that, and just, I mean, everything down to, I mean, you buy Photoshop. You can't buy Photoshop, right? It has to be a subscription. 3D Studio Max, like a 3D model on, you can't buy
Windows,
it. It
I
has to be
think,
a
is moving
subscription.
to that.
Windows is wanting to be a subscription. Like everything wants to be a subscription, and it's just like,
No, Rent Your Life. I hate it.
I absolutely hate it.
Because it's just a nonstop treadmill. Like,
What is it? You'll own nothing.
all right.
It's like the Klaus Schwab philosophy here. It's And I do. I hate it. It's like,
So don't take your business model from a literal Bond villain.
well, it's almost like, I mean, if we have to start paying monthly for Windows, I mean, are we just going to see a big explosion with
What, like Linux or something?
Linux? Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
Linux.
I
with an
mean,
interface,
that's
right?
how it's going to be, is if they're going to start charging you to pay per month. I'm like, okay, well, what are the alternatives?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
We're
just
just not
running a
gonna do
GUI
it.
shell over Linux is going to start being a new norm for a lot of people. If it's like, no, you have to keep paying every single month to just have a computer. And it's just like, what?
Y'all
So,
can
no.
I mean, cars are kind of
take
trying
a
to get that
long
way
walk
too.
off a short pier.
JP got rockets. When do we get a WGG video about Bretonia and Miranda's portrayal of the Lady of the Lake? I just have to go down to my sister-in-law's and ride her horse. Lady. I'm getting on Lady. I already have a brilliant cosplay idea. So good. Just have to find any place in Roswell that's green.
There's actually,
There's
I think it's
some.
pretty green in Roswell.
Yeah, just maybe go out to one of their like hay field or something, like where they grow grass or something, and be like, before you shave this, or whatever you do, harvest it.
Before you shave your grass. Wow. It's getting late.
Just let me out there. I'm gonna put flowers on the bridle. Ah! Okay. Anyway, we'll see, JP. Jerry, I lost so much money when I sold my Tau and Necron armies that I will never go back. Oh. What if someone gave you an army? Lady of the Lake gives me nothing but Monty Python flashbacks.
She a moistened beant, whatever the word is.
Oh my god. Patty's Parlor, what is the ideal game Flo wants to play, and why is it Nemesis?
Okay, I do love Nemesis. But in general, I just like games that are more story driven. And I like having games that I don't have to constantly relearn rules for. Yes, I play a lot of board games, but I only have to learn the rules for the board game once. And then it's that board game. I have it. It has the rules right there. They haven't
It
changed.
does compartmentalize well.
Yeah.
But who cares? Because then it's just a new board game. You play it once, and then you go on to a new one every week. No one has an attention span.
Not me, but I mean...
You're good.
I would say, well, it depends on the type of game you're playing with. Unfortunately, people do just cycle through all of them real fast, but I would like to play certain games a number of times. But finding people who will play them with you is the difficult part. Almost my entire game group kind of moved away or kind of fell off the face of the earth, so...
Yeah.
Like Mac Attack has a little more wisdom for us.
Another super chat. Thank you again, sir. A mortgage from a bank can take 30 years to pay off. If you rob a bank, you're out 10 years. Follow me for more financial advice. I've actually heard this before. It's real cute until you get to the restitution part, but yes, I hear what you're saying. JP got rockets. Well, strange women lying in ponds distributing scimitars is the most reliable form of government. That's not the quote I remember hearing. Patty, I figure if only my family plays and plays it with some consistency, it's a win. I've had good feedback about my books, but the RPG stuff has more mileage than mutants. Maybe. I mean, it depends on like what community you get into. Andrew Fairbanks, Microsoft 365 monthly trial coming soon. Totally see that. Patty, I need to finish the co-op / solo rules, which, you know, I think has been a positive move. Like a lot of the newer war games that are coming out, and like Adam did it right with his Majestic 13, where you have solo play. I think there's something nice about that because you can build confidence in your knowledge of the game before you go out into the world and play with other people. Let's see. You're a mod, you don't sleep. Oh, sorry, I'm keeping everybody up. Patty, big explosion into Apple until Apple goes to sub to keep up with the Joneses. Maybe.
Sorry, I still won't buy Apple. I don't care if everything went to subscription, I still won't buy Apple.
Models and Minis. Subscription model for Windows. Blows dust off Pirate Hat. Starts singing sea shanties.
Right?
Like, suddenly Pirate Bay is a like full-on website again.
Yeah.
Let's see. Supreme executive power derives from a mandate from the masses, not some farcical aquatic ceremony. Don't sell armies is the easiest way around that. Fair enough. JP got rockets. You see, the send up I wrote of that scene, but in 40K, huh? Check a rhubarb. Figs are like the stock market. Buy, 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 never sell. I mean, we've kind of done that, right? I don't know that there's, I mean, it could also turn out like the Beanie Baby craze, where you end up adopting a lot of unwanted armies from
But
a
you can't
certain game
play
system
war
that you used
games
to
with Beanie
love.
Babies. I mean, you can play them with literally anything, but
You definitely can play war games with Beanie Babies.
I mean, wait until my grandparents were like, here are all these Beanie Babies we bought for you way back when.
I have old ass Beanie Babies.
I think there are probably around 500 at my grandparents right now. I had like 15 that I played with. And my grandparents were like, these are going to be the new craze. And they kept buying them every week.
Wow.
Yeah, this is all stuff that I'm going to have to end up dealing with eventually.
Fun times.
All right, final comment should be Andrew Fairbanks here.
All right, Andrew Fairbanks. Love the story of Jesse James, who broke into the house of a widow who was about to be foreclosed on. He gave her money, told her to get a receipt. Then, after she paid the bank employee, robbed him. There you go. Oh my goodness. All right, we should definitely start backing out of here. You people, thank you so much for all the contributions to the chat.
Past our time.
Well, I think there was a lot to chew on, and we got distracted with movie talk, as we often do.
Unless it's movie talk that we're trying to talk about, then we get distracted with everything else.
Al Murray also, gentle people, there is no game police, so pick the version you want to play and do so. Fair enough. All right, so thank you all so much for joining the chat. Thank you. I will give you a heads up, 2 weeks from now, we are going to be not here. We're going to be in Dayton, Ohio, and I'm going to be running around the forest in latex in the frozen forest of Ohio. So
maybe
I won't
be a short live stream. Who knows what's going on? We'll just have to see.
See what's going on. But I don't think there will be a live stream happening. But I'm trying to get a different video out to fill in that gap for the next Wednesday. So otherwise, I will see you on March 6th, which will be my Road to Adepticon.
And if anyone's interested in what Miranda's doing, check out her IMDb page, and it will show you what she's working on right now.
It's true. It's true. Yes. So we're going to head out here with the outro, which is a few minutes. So if you have more stuff you want to contribute to the chat, I will be responding to that as well. So again, thank you so much for joining. Wonderful topics. Thank you so much for your contributions. I love talking to you guys. So we will see you next time. Barry, cover me. All right, guys, this is it. Copy that. No more sandwiches, Barry.
What's wrong with this place? I'm in the west corridor. I'm right outside the generator room. I'm out of bullets. Oh, Barry. success.